Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we're all doing well this fine night. Today we're gonna get started on probably the first of quite a few to come. We're gonna do some VOD reviewing. As some of you know, I've been getting back into the Smite casting scene recently, thanks to the help of Judas, Judas Priestley. So I want to make sure that we are getting on to that and making sure that we are teaching the, well, I say newer casters. I'll be honest with you, chat. I'll be honest with you. I haven't, you know what? I didn't hear of most of the casters that I'm working with now until I joined the team. But I'm so pleasantly surprised at the quality of all the new EU casters that I just was not paying close enough attention to in my last few years with Hi-Rez. So I'm so excited to be getting to cast with them, and I think that they'll really benefit from a little bit of VOD review. So Judas and I wanted to try and make sure that there was a place where they could get VOD reviewing done. So that's what we're doing today. What? Gosh. Accidental. Oh, what am I doing? I've just made my fucking window full screen. Right, I just wanted to open Judas's channel on my other monitor, because he's going to be looking to cast the other set that we did. So I'm just going to get that up there. Okie dokie. So, chat, let's get into it, shall we? I've got the rain, formerly known as purple, on in the background. Don't know if you guys, if anyone here is a big fan of Risky Rain. There we go. Just sorting out everything on my other monitor. Also just waiting for people to exist. Where is everybody this evening? Maybe people aren't all that interested in VOD review streams. That's fine. We'll bring them in. Judas, you're the only one watching this right now. In the future, when you end up watching it. Spooky. Let me just... Oh, hi, Skevy. Well. Actually, it's 1 a.m. Is it? Where? Wait, Skevy, where are you? I thought you were NA. Wait, I thought you were EU. How is it 1 a.m.? It's 7, my guy. This is maybe the most British way I could have ever possibly said it's 7. You're in India? Damn, Usk. I actually had no idea. That's so wild. Alright, so let's start off. I don't quite remember who was casting with Judas. It was Haunting. Okay. I'll just do a little ping. Okay. Was in Amsterdam a day before for 3 days. It's oh. How do all you EU people call 3 degrees with sun good weather? We don't. You're thinking of the British. Um, I mean, I grew up in Spain, where like you want like a minimum of 20 degrees, right? Like 15 degrees is a cold day in Spain. So don't you EU people me. All right? That's not a thing. All right. Let's get into this, shall we? Let's pause my music. Let's have a listen.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome on into the Olympus Smite League. You might
Forgot to mention. Oh, okay, shit. Hi, Judas. I'm gonna shift to Spain in 4 months, Madrid. Oh, nice. Shift by shift, do you mean move to or just be there? There's a huge wait before game 1 starts because of tech. Sounds like excellent filibuster criticism. Best game is probably game 2, however. Sounds good. We will do both games. Doing both games. This is all I have to do today. This is my this is my stream content for the entire stream.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome on into the Olympus Smite League. You might be thinking to yourselves, that person sounds a bit strange, and that's because you're right. That's because this is the EMEA take.
Straight away, just a little bit late on the fade down for Kashi, I think. Oh! Judas, thank you so much for the primo for 3 months. Wait, shit. A 3-month total sub. There you go. It's a pleasure to become content. Please don't stop. Please don't stop. Please don't stop the music. Yeah, so just a little bit of miscommunication there.
It's the Smite 2
Nothing
Broadcasting Network coming on in hot with a big game for you today. We have the Jungle Skunks versus Eternal Vanguard in the Athens division. You got Judas Priestley here for my first time on Olympus. Haunting, I believe you're here for the first time as well. How excited are you for this matchup today?
Like that handoff.
I'm really excited for the matchup today, but I am excited with this being my first time here on Olympus Smite League, but also my first proper live cast with the EMEA Smite 2 Broadcast Network. So,
irrelevant point. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that we needed to know it was your first time here. Query whether or not you lose credibility with the audience for that. Generally harmless, not something that you would bring up again. Anyway, just
thrilled to be here. Like 3 brand new things all at once. It's like Christmas come early.
Christmas come early in Smite 2 as well. Smite 2 is still relatively new, of course, and everything's still fresh and ready. Plenty of new things to talk about as well. Of course, we have a brand new god in Princess Barry in the game as well, and that changes things up. We've got new things like new
banned. That's something that I would like to know if I'm a viewer. We've got Barry, she's new. Is she banned for this tournament? Are we going to see her today?
Aspects, new items have been recently added. There is tons going on.
That's something I would like to know right off the rip.
Players have to keep good track of what's good, what's bad.
Going to study and work? That's great.
What they can do.
I had no idea if she was banned or not. That's perfectly fine. She was not. It's one of those things, right? Like, if you don't know, you don't know. I'm operating from the position where I don't know what you do and do not know. I'm just saying, you know, if known, that's something that we would like to hear straight away on the mention of Barry.
As you've, probably seen Haunting, there's been lots of changes lately, but what are you expecting to see today?
What are you moving to study, Uskebe?
Are you expecting to be more highly prioritized than usual?
I think the new god Princess Barry is one that we may see prioritized given that she's brand new, which means that if you're
okay, so honestly, ignore that last comment. You're speaking now in that she's not banned, or in. Come on, Blazy, fucking speak. The way that you're talking now tells me the audience that she's not banned. Would have liked an explicit, like, yes or no, but absolutely fine. Disregard.
Might have a little bit of a knowledge
disregard
advantage.
last.
Also, just we're seeing.
I like the setup to Haunting. I like setting. I like what you've done in setting the expectation, given Haunting that it's a pretty easy alley-oop, a good question to establish his credibility with the audience to say that he knows what he's talking about. bringing up all the kind of newer, more important characters is an easy question. Good alley-oop, Haunting, you do well on it.
Rate of play and a pretty high rate of success in Smite 2. I think that rapid release cadence just means that people are getting their hands on the new toys and getting successful with them. I understand from conversations we were having pre-cast that Mordred was seeing play in
Masters
the Hazer
in
Europe
Management.
So
ZZ, hello there, my dude. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Be surprised to see that here even. And also, a good deal of warrior jungles, I think, have been a thing that I've
that's
noticed across
interesting.
Smite 2. Achilles.
Merlin's going to be released today?
Jungle. Hercules.
Is it today?
I toned him down a little bit, but another god who's really strong in the jungle, and then even Amaterasu. And so having a little bit more bulk.
I might need to play some Smite games.
Just high damage output and high utility seems like a really strong recipe for success that I expect these teams to go to.
Yeah, when I first saw the Hercules jungle, I thought, that's cool. That's a nice little change up from what we've seen before. I hope...
Wrong. Saying Hercules jungle is cool in any context is factually incorrect, and you should feel bad.
We see more of it. The next...
It has been a while, Cece. How you been, man?
time I saw Hercules jungle, it was described by my co-caster as everything wrong with Smite
Hey!
2. So I would
I don't know who was co-casting you for that one, Judas, but the fucking based.
expect someone to pick it up if it happens to be available. But yeah, like you said yesterday,
Oh, God.
we had some of the...
Judas is going to be covering my cast from Saturday over on his channel, where I actually had the displeasure of watching a Hercules jungle go like 18-2 throughout the entire game. And that was basically the only thing that we got to talk about was, oh, hey, look, Hercules murdered another guy.
Being played, which is, of course, the EU side of things. But that tends to spill over very commonly. Like, there's a lot of common ground right now between the EMEA region and the NA region, just on the fact that there's not that many gods available. There's only so many.
So, Haunting, one thing I'm noticing about your eyes here, I feel like I need to turn on my my mouse for can I share my mouse? Capture setting, mouse pointer. Yeah. So one thing I would say, Haunting, is when you're looking at your camera, you want to try and kind of make eye contact either just to the left or to the right or just above or below. So you see the difference between this, which is kind of what you're doing, where we're kind of like, we're facing onto the camera, but I'm still kind of looking the other way. I'll go into big screen here. Whereas something like this, which is a lot more personal, it doesn't kind of look like I'm staring directly into your soul just yet, but it's a lot better kind of to look close to head on, because this is very different from this. This is very different, right? Chat, I'm sure you can back me up there as you can see this, but this is a very different kind of intense energy. And I would recommend more looking up, slightly above your camera lens than down, just because you get like a different perspective on where your head is at. So I would recommend just looking slightly above. What I used to do with my old webcam is I used to get like a little post-it note. Of course, I don't fucking have one on me at the moment. But I used to get a little post-it note and literally just like stick it just above to give myself like a point to look at. So that's probably what I would recommend doing for yourself. I know it can feel really awkward just like raw dogging the camera with your eyes. But if you put like a little smiley face on there, it kind of gives you something to look at, right? Hey Lynn, how you doing, man? Welcome. I'm gonna put my glasses back on. Ah, Jesus, my eyes. Okie dokie. ZZ, tell me all about your wonderful adventures through the wonderful game of life. And Lynn, you the same, my dude. How's your day been?
Many differences you can have.
Ah! Fucking. Unexpected error? I'll unexpect your error.
I don't get the opportunity to scrim. I don't.
You typically
Little bit, but another god who's really strong in the jungle, and then even Amaterasu. And so having a little bit more bulk in the jungle, along with just high damage.
I'm not doing too bad, thank you, Lynn. Just had a very productive meeting with the EMEA Smite Broadcast Network.
I thought, that's
and
cool.
now
that's a nice little change up from what we
I am
more of it. The next time I saw
doing
Hercules
some VOD review. Giving some advice
as
to Haunting, like very specifically, and then Judas as well, who's a lot more experienced. I'm not expecting to find as much stuff from Judas, but I've never watched Haunting cast before, so it's gonna be fun for me. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Side of things, but that tends to spill over very commonly. Like, there's a lot of common ground right now between the EMEA region and the NA region, just on the fact that there's not that many gods available. There's only so many differences you can have, and for all you know, some of these players might have been watching and might have gone, "Hey,
Gosh,
that looks pretty good."
I know this is completely irrelevant, but Judas's preamble on this, it just reminds me. It takes me back to season 3 Worlds, watching China rock up with Medusa, a god that nobody had touched since like the game released in like pro play. China rock up with this Medusa, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And they like, I think they take a game or two off of one of the NA teams, which is just so funny.
Might try that. But
Core
we saw your
memory.
typical bands, your Aphrodite still being highly valued. We saw a lot of Cupid pressure actually. And
That's okay,
a
Judas, you
god
can come
actually
watch
that
it later.
I'm not sure if we'll see such high prioritization
Wah.
in this region as well. I'm very interested to see if it does actually happen that way. It will, like I said, when I've seen.
I like the setup for
some
this,
EU
talking
teams
about,
highly
trying to
prioritize
find
certain
that
gods.
story in terms of, like, the differences between NA and EU. Nala sends Henlix and tailwags to you. Thank you, Nala. I'm sending head scritches and belly rubs back.
And then others just get left to the wayside.
Right, sorry. I like the story building from, like, the difference between NA and EU. It's not super relevant, I don't think, because I don't know if... if Athens League is all EU or all NA, so I'm not sure if it's the kind of situation where we could see two different regions playing, but I like it regardless.
Aladdin not picked or banned for a lot of the games. We did see it once or twice. And
That's
it still
interesting.
Looks pretty strong to me, but of course it has been toned down a little bit. Has Aladdin lately, so maybe won't be seeing.
I think I'd like to have known a little bit
some
more.
things.
Obviously, this relies on like a deeper game knowledge that I don't have, right? So I'm not not necessarily criticizing. But I think it could have been more interesting to hear maybe what specifically has been toned down on Aladdin, so that we, the audience, could understand maybe why he hasn't been picked. Because I would like to know.
Sort of high priority, but the other high priority god I've been seeing a lot of yesterday was Morrigan support. Now that is something that I know was again born in the EMEA region, but taken all the way to Las Vegas where it was shown off there, and now it's been around a while, right? That I might actually I might expect to see this Morrigan support be a common thing here, but it's still something you have to.
So like,
practice a lot of, right? You can't
sorry,
just
not to harp on this, but like, just to emphasize what I was saying before, you get kind of a clearer picture of it now that the pit rate's kind of ironed out a little bit. This head placement haunting it looks a bit weird. It looks like you're doing this, right? Like you're square onto the camera, but you're like reading something else. So like, this is the angle that we're getting from you when we could be getting more of this. It's a bit more engaging with the camera. I'll drop it there.
In and play and let it go. You do need a lot more experience on that type of god, and of course with the new aspect in it. But that's sort of what we've been seeing. Is there anything else that's been catching your eye lately, Haunting?
I've been trying to keep up as much as I can with the rapid changes that Smite 2 is undergoing, and I think perhaps a disadvantage that someone in my position has over some of these teams is I don't get the opportunity to scrim, I don't get the opportunity to play against high-level competition on the
Odd
regular,
review!
which means a lot
Odd
of this is
review!
done in
Hi,
theory.
Brent.
One of the things that I think I've been particularly keyed in on is the rise and fall of Hunbatz, who was a
Yes.
major threat in the solo and support.
I like this,
roles,
bring in your own experience to talk about the
and has been
gods.
really toned down quite
Really
a bit.
good.
I know that we still see
Love that
the stun
context.
bats
Gives you
come out of
get like talking about like the scrims that you've been able to watch, your relationship to kind of upper level players gives huge credibility with an audience.
occasionally, but I think
Really good.
Hunbatz is much more at home now as the regular damage-based assassin.
Also, I'm loving Judas's pile of, I don't know if you guys can see it from your angle, but Judas just has a pile of what I can only assume to be soundproofing foam. And as a man who also owns a pile of unassigned soundproofing foam, I appreciate the squishy bag of soundproofing foam. Hold on. I'll go. Oh, you know what? There's a bunch of board games that now rely on the squishy bag of foam to stay upright, but Every good caster has an unassigned bag of soundproofing foam.
in the jungle. I would be interested to see how.
I'm doing
Cupid
okay, thank you, Brett.
sticks
How are
around.
you?
I know you said lower priority in NA, but we're seeing a lot of Braggy's Harp built in ADCs,
Yes.
particularly
Braggy.
on the Shred builds. And
Loving
whilst I know that
hearing this
Shred is
item
less
relevance,
prioritized
telling us what we
than-
should be prepared for. This is really good on desk as well because it gives your well, obviously you two are about to go into the cast, but it gives your caster something to talk about as well. If there, if there is Braggy's Harp, you get to easy softball analysis with a. Oh yeah, as Haunting said on the desk, Braggy's Harp has been super popular in these builds. We're about to see why. This is, it's doing so much damage. They've decided to go for it first. On the flip side, if there is no Braggies, you then get to be there like, oh, well, actually, this player's going for a different build to what we've been kind of expecting. We were expecting to see kind of the Braggy's Harp, but they've decided to go for Bloodforge first item, whatever. I wonder what their strategy is, blah, 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 blah. And that gives you more to talk about, so it's really good setup for your casters.
Having Braggy's Harp be something that works so nicely with these gods with hybrid scaling. You think about Dunsaburo, you think about Cupid, and now even Princess Bari.
Nice.
I
What did you have for
think
lunch,
maybe
Brent?
Picking gods that take advantage of a strong item already that plays nicely with other great items in that role, like Chins, is going to be a road that some of these teams might go down as well. So it'll be interesting to look over there. I'm also curious to see how the supports choose to build. So you talked about Morrigan support, who typically you would often build, even in Smite 1, where it's a little bit more of an edge case strategy. You would build your Morrigan full damage and then transform into the tanks when you needed that tanky.
See, normally I would be there like you are talking way too long. You should have passed off to Judas and then let Judas kick it back to you. But this is clearly a very long desk, so me as a caster, I'm like, okay, something's definitely gone wrong. They're stalling for time, so
Present.
not something I would recommend you do normal, but in this case where you have to fill air, fine.
I know that
You had an abig what is an abig salad? Chicken, cucumbers, carrots, roasted cauliflower, broccoli, and red wine vinegar and lemon. Ooh, that sounds
a
tasty.
few weeks ago, PBM was saying all supports should be building damage all the time in Smite 2.
Okay, bringing in relevant information from pros. I
don't
like that.
know that that's necessarily always correct, given how
Oh,
strong
a
the
big
utility item-
A big salad, not a big salad. This is why punctuation is important.
are for supports, things like purification.
Yep.
But Lifebinder continues to be something that helps you trade well early and converts nicely as the game goes on. And then there's other great damage items too. Chronos Pendant continues.
Okay,
to be a great
good. I
cooldown
like this.
option
I'm
that
not gonna be too mean and analyze
has
this
a
whole
skill
desk.
for-
We'll skip forward
in
now.
that get really
Okay,
close when we
nice.
Get on into the picks and bans. Let's go.
interested to see how
It was
the
literally
approach these
immediately as I was going
Yeah, really
to.
excited to see how it goes. Like you said, there's tons that could be done. So let's see how it goes when we get on into the picks and bans as well. Plenty to be done, plenty to see, and again, really excited to see what the priorities look like.
Yeah, I think it's good that yes, that was like an 8-minute desk, which is quite long for what we normally do. But I think it's good that you didn't stop and address it because to a regular viewer, that doesn't necessarily feel super long. That just feels like the desk is talking a lot. So I like that you didn't like stop and address it. If it was longer, stop and address it. But
Haunting.
we didn't do
Princess
that.
Barry
It's good.
off the table. The Skogs, the Jungle Skogs themselves, not interested in that god at the moment. But interesting to see the Hunbats taken away though from Eternal Vanguard, because like you said, not being the type of god that's been highly prioritized lately. And immediately going back to what we were talking about with the Euros tournament that was on yesterday, this set of 4 bans outside of Barry completely different. So for me, it's already great to see such a wide range, right? And completely different.
Okay, stop talking. Like this right here. This is if you're a desk 2, this should be basically all you. Judas, you were just here to basically go, here's what's happened. Haunting, what do you think about this? Right? No, like we don't care about what
Some
the
bans as well,
the desk
plenty
1
to be done,
thinks.
plenty to see, and again, really excited
Right?
to see what the
Like, right
priorities
here,
look
it
like.
should be here.
Immediately, though, Haunting. Princess Barry off the table. The Skogs, the Jungle Skogs themselves, not interested.
Hey,
in that god
Palmer.
at the moment, but
Like, literally, right here, it should be straight away Haunting, Barry off the board, Humbat's off the board. We already mentioned NA doesn't really like it, so that's, makes a lot of sense. Sobek and Susano as well. Haunting, what do you make of this first round of bans? Or, Haunting, what do you think Skogs might look to lock in here? Or Haunting something else. It's so easy. I do it all the time. I'm so bad for it. I will just overspeak. But remember, as a desk one, as a chair one, you are not there to talk about your thoughts and feelings. You are head empty. You have no thought. You have no feeling. You are simply there to let chair two do the big smart brain. Engage in the discussion, obviously, if you can, but it's more about setting up the chair
Interesting to see the
to be
Hunyats
smart.
taken away though from Eternal Vanguard, because like you said, not being the type of god that's been highly prioritized.
I just think we're going a
lately,
little
and
too long. I like it.
immediately
It's fine to give a little bit of this context, but like, I just think we go on a little too long here. I think we could be, as soon as that fourth ban comes in, we could be asking Haunting why Susanos, because it's not something you've already talked about on the desk, right? Susano, Sobek, not two gods that you highlighted. The Barry and the Humbats, you kind of can gloss over because you've already talked about it on the desk, right? You're already there, like, these two gods, really strong, probably going to get banned. We didn't talk about Sobek, we didn't talk about Susano. Haunting, why have they been banned? Perma, how have you been, my lovely? It's so lovely to see you. I hope you're doing well. I did not mean to ignore you. I'm just in big analytical mode. Hi.
going back to what we were talking about with the Euros tournament that was on yesterday, this set of 4 bands outside of Bari completely different. So for me, it's already great to see such a wide range, right, and completely different priorities coming on out. So I would have expected this to be probably an Aphrodite top pick, if not a Cupid, but it's actually an Achilles coming out from the Skogs.
Yeah.
Do you think Haunting that?
See, like, all of that could have been Haunting, talking about Susanna Sobek. Quick little thing about them. We see the Achilles hover, Haunting finds a way to stop the sentence. Achilles gets locked in.
That Achilles makes sense as a top pick at the moment.
Then you could ask that question. There's such a great question to bring up. Achilles, not something we've really seen as a number 1 priority pick. So I think really, really great question. To be there, like, do you think this is worthwhile? But I think this could have been more Haunting analysis, blah, 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 blah. Haunting hands it off. Achilles gets locked in. Do you think that's a good top pick? Been doing all right, although I did have a bit of a scare today, having to bring one of my guinea pigs to an emergency vet visit. Oh, no! Are they okay? You said a bit of a scare and not a devastating news. So I'm assuming the guinea pig is okay. Which is good. And also, how many guinea pigs do you have? What are their names? Tell us more about the guinea pigs.
Jungle than in
love
other
guinea pigs.
roles, but it is a god that you can flex into other roles. I suppose also having an execute on your team.
Good
is
analysis.
pretty
I
useful.
love
I
this
know that
rationale. Exactly what you want to do as a chair too is just be there like, this makes no fucking sense, but here's how it could.
Kepri isn't the shining star in Smite 2 as he was in Smite 1.
I'm
but
glad that he's okay,
it
Palmer.
does sort of give you that option of saying,
Scary.
we're taking a pick
Poor
away,
little
and
guinea
maybe
pigs.
that's a pick that the support on Eternal Vanguard favors already. But I think I agree with you that I'd rather look at a power pick like Aphrodite early on.
Yeah, Aphrodite.
And here on this this pass off, perfect. I think I would have liked to have seen a different tone, right? I would have liked to have seen a power pick like Aphrodite early on, which is what Eternal Vanguard are looking to do, right? Because we're literally seeing it being
One of those
hovered
stuff
here.
that just kind of ruins games sometimes. Where you can see
What's up,
these
haters?
guys
Blah, blah,
so
blah. All they do is
powerful and
talk.
so
That's their
effective in the right
job.
situation.
Keeping him
Yeah,
overnight,
just
getting
kinda
back on his
take
feet.
over. So
Okay.
absolutely.
What is his name? And how many other guinea pigs do you have? And what are their names? I need to know. Fucking love
Absolutely
guinea
not
pigs.
surprised to see it picked up here. Still plenty of options now, though. You know, like I said, you might be looking at the Cupid if it's that high prioritized. You might be even thinking of Thor as well. That's been a god that's similar to Achilles, right? Can sort of flex one way or the other. Obviously, with that Achilles locked in, the Skogs don't necessarily need to go for here. It is the Artemis being.
So yeah, I think again, like we do we mention the
Option of
Aphrodite
saying,
gets locked
we're
in?
taking a pick away, and maybe that's a pick that
Those are
the support
amazing
on-
names.
on Eternal
Sylvester,
Vanguard
Nugget,
favors already,
Peanut,
but
and Nero.
I think I agree with you that I'd rather
Fucking
look at a power
amazing
pick like
names.
Aphrodite early on.
Aphrodite, one of those gods that just kind of ruins games sometimes, where you can see this god is so powerful and so effective in the right situation that, yeah, it does just kind of take over. So absolutely not surprised to see it picked up here.
Okay,
Still plenty
did
of
mention
options
it.
now, though. You know, like I said, you might be looking at the Cupid if it's that high prioritized. You might be even thinking of Thor as well. That's been a god that's similar to Achilles, right? Can sort of flex one way or the other. Obviously, with that Achilles locked in, the Skogs don't.
Okay, misspeak there. You were supposed to say Artemis. You said Achilles. That's fine. Happens. I was just confused. That's fine.
Necessarily need to
I
go
think
for here.
again,
It is the
we
Artemis.
I think we go a little long. I would like to have heard Haunting's thoughts a bit more about this. Probably duo lane. Boo! Ah! Oh, Jesus Christ, Kenny, you scared? You can't just do that to me, man. That's not. Ah, you fucking got me. I'm no streamer, but Blazy, the lighting feels off for both the commentators. The lighting? Well, okay. You can't criticize the lighting. They're commentators, right? Normally we have people who do that for us. But yeah, I mean, we got this big backing layer, but it looks like Haunting is draped in a halo. Is my lighting bad? Hold on. Are we good? Is our lighting well balanced? I think my lighting's pretty well balanced too. Don't really like their walls. Bad commentators. Do you guys remember throughout like the first whole 2 years that Mifflin was casting, where he had the portraits in the background that he just subtly tilted off and off angle just to piss people off, and people would just be like losing their minds in chat. I'm a big fan of Nugget. Although I love the name Nero. Is that a reference to the Emperor? And what did they do to deserve the name Nero?
Being picked up, though, which I would say was the second most prioritized god, and actually does quite well into Cupid in that duo lane. So Eternal Vanguard right away just locking in their duo lane. Again, this is something we saw a lot yesterday. If your second pick, you do lose a high priority pick, but you just slam your duo lane as early as possible. And yeah, that's what they've gone for. Pretty strong and works really well together. Do those two gods, I think, is the key point.
I totally.
Yeah, I think we could have just probably left it at Eternal Vanguard. They're locking Artemis here. Haunting, this is looking like it's going to be their dual lane. What do you think of it? And then Haunting can be their like, well, Artemis, Aphrodite, they have these benefits. If it is the dual lane, because this Aphrodite could still potentially be solo, could potentially still be mid, likely to be support, but is likely going to that support. Likely to be support, could still go in some other roles, but if it is, it could, do this, and then Haunting can talk about that matchup, because at the moment, it's been like 80% Judas, 20% Haunting. I need to hear more. Let me hear Haunting more. Let him be smart. Rude and impolite. Your lighting should be off, then I can't see you. Improve stream. Wow! Thanks, Midas. Love you too, buddy. It is, and I'm pretty sure I chose it because he's black. Wait, but that would imply it'd be more like the coffee. I don't... What?
I totally agree with you. I think Artemis is one of those gods who has the option to take over a game when you hit the late game, but is pretty vulnerable in the early game, particularly in Smite 2, where you don't get Beads Aegis. Now you are reliant on just the single relic. So having a god like
In
Aphrodite
what language?
who has the
I didn't
ability
actually
she
know
can
that.
share in her ultimate, and typically builds a lot of cooldown to make that happen as frequently as possible. What you're doing is you're essentially doing damage mitigation for Artemis. You take away that major weakness and now put a hyper carry into a position where it's much easier for them to fulfill that destiny.
Okay,
Well,
right. Okay. Real quick, what should be happening here? That was really good analysis from Haunting. In the time that we were talking about Artemis, we've had Anubis and Izanami locked in, right? Absolutely fine. It happens. You gotta pick your fights. You can't just go at the pace of picks and bans. Otherwise, you'll never get anything discussed. What should happen right now? Judas should just go. Anubis and Izanami are the picks here for Skogs. It's a bit of a weird composition here, Haunting. What do you think Skogs is trying to draft around, right? What do you think the objective of this team is going to be from the first half, right? Something along those lines, short little, here's what happened, pass it back to Haunting.
looking at here from the Skogs is Anubis, Izanami coming in. Now, these are not, at least in my opinion, top priority gods, right?
Cool.
Especially in a competitive setting. But what I'm already seeing is this theme coming out of just early aggression, right?
Okay, yeah, so that's we've seen early theme, early aggression. That could have been Haunting saying that, right? We could have set that up for Haunting.
Izanami, Anubis, Achilles, all very fast starters. I think Achilles, when you get that Hydra's Lament online, is when they really start to shine, but still has pretty good base damage numbers, being that warrior, right? Which, again, I would expect to see Achilles in the jungle. That's generally where we have been seeing it lately, and I would be surprised to see it solo. But yeah, the Anubis, of course, could potentially flex to the solo lane as well, but it does just look like a comp that no messing about, right? No, none of this Aphrodite, Artemis. They just want to start
Judas.
going, get going as quickly
Judas.
as they can.
Judas. Shut up. I hope that I really hope Judas knows that I'm not being like mean. Sound volume of their stream is kind of low. I can turn that up for you, no problem.
Whereas, Aphrodite Artemis
How's
needs
that?
some time, like you said, have some vulnerabilities in that early game. While Afro covers a lot of the Artemis early game issues, there is nobody to cover Aphrodite's early weaknesses. So,
okay, so I'm gonna rag on this more because I feel like it.
Where it's much easier for them to fulfill that destiny.
Haunting stops talking at 21:13.
implementing, we have potentially none of this as weaknesses. Do
So
definitely strike me as some gods that start really, really well.
Judas speaks for a whole minute. Too much for my desk one. My desk one should just be like giving my desk two questions for starters. But this layup is so good.
In as quickly as they can, whereas Aphrodite Artemis needs some time, like you said, have some vulnerabilities in that early game. While Afro covers a lot of the Artemis early game issues, there is nobody to cover Aphrodite's early weaknesses. So making up for that a little bit though, our Eternal Vanguard, because Thanatos Hades, however, do definitely strike me as some gods that start really, really well.
I love that layup. That's a really good setup for Haunting. I want that on the first round, right? Give him that same layup for Anubis and Izanami. That's all you should be doing, right? A little bit of, that was really, really good with the, Artemis and Aphrodite struggle to get going, that have the really dominating late game. Aphrodite can kind of help Artemis kind of in that early bit a little bit at her own cost. But it will be no one will be there to help Aphrodite. But they've drafted this Thanatos now. He'll be able to help out in this early game, and then Haunting can come in, right? That's all the setup that you need to do. Short little thought, add something to the conversation. So in this case, you're adding Artemis, Aphrodite, late game good, early game bad. Thanatos help early game? Question mark? Haunting, go.
Absolutely, Thanatos, classic early game jungler, and whilst I don't think he falls off late game nearly as much as he used to, just a really good bridge pick here for the team. And I think rather than perhaps aggression, one of the things I'd focus on, what Skorks are doing is these are pressure lanes, right?
Love this.
Anubis clears really well and can play a pressure game. Izanami, that's why you pick her, really is for that high pressure.
Love it.
And I think in that vein, Achilles works much better as a jungler than a solo, because one of the things that Achilles can struggle with over in that solo lane is that early game clear. So you're just taking away.
And Haunting reads it perfect. Like, look at that. He absolutely Giga brains the fuck out of that. Is like, hey, everything else they've drafted makes Achilles a really good jungler. So they should be looking for another solo laner here, and Skogs draft the solo laner. Because Haunting's fucking giga smart, and Judas should let him speak.
And which is why I love this Hades pick so much. Eternal Vanguard have picked perhaps the king of solo lane pressure. Like, Hades has no issue clearing at all, and is just known for clearing and then going and stealing whatever jungle camps he likes from you. And so what you're doing is you are matching pressure with pressure and potentially giving yourself a second win condition, right? The first win condition, Aphrodite Artemis, we've got to get to late game, and then Thanatos shores that up. The Hades gives you a way of getting an early game lead or somewhere else in the map.
I have no idea what this comp is from Skogs, which is what Judas is about to say.
Oh, this is very spicy coming out from Skog. So I was
brain.
going to touch on my Acasta brain was already turning there. I was thinking, I see they picked the armor to go into the Hades, because Hades, like you said, solo lane clear god. You're not really going to contest it, even with.
Me and Judas had the exact same thoughts. Oh no, that's why I'm so worried for him to do my my review because I'm gonna get slated. Because Judas is gonna give me the same feedback I would give to myself, I imagine, because we have seemingly the same fucking
There's
brain.
something like a chalk, so you just kind of concede the solo lane and take the armor to just farm up for that late game. But now the Mordred is in the picture, and Mordred can kind of do that as well, right? Mordred again not
So this is definitely now Amaterasu support, Achilles jungle, Mordred
going
solo.
to take over the lane, especially into a Hades. But with Armor, Mordred, and Achilles all locked in, it's now a lot less clear what exactly the choice will be for which god goes into the solo lane and which god will go.
So production note, I think we moved off of the final draft here way too soon. Like, I would just keep us on this screen for like at least a minute or two, let the audience really drink in what's happening. It also gives the casters a lot more time to like pick out individual bits and bobs and talk about that while they have that visual representation there.
Mordred and Achilles all locked
Because
in.
we moved that,
It's now
we
a
move
lot
off that
less
way too
clear
soon.
what exactly the choice will be for which god goes into the solo lane and which god will go into the jungle. Now, if I was to take a guess, I'd say we've seen a little bit more armor support in Smite 2's history. However, just before that, I have noticed, Achilles wasn't in the game yet. And in Smite 1, there was a bit more Achilles support than armor support. So I'm just going to throw it right to you, Haunting, and say, do you know?
But you're not throwing it right to Haunting. You've been speaking!
Spicy coming up from the Skogs.
Game lead, Artemis, we cross on the map.
To touch on. Oh, this is very spicy.
23-25.
Pitch huggle. In notice that armor support and support, and well,
Feel like it's
this is basically it.
Throw it right to Haunting a minute later, right? This should be like 20 seconds of you, and then throwing it to Haunting, right? I love the little like surprise. Oh, something special's happened here. I was thinking it was gonna be this, but no, they've changed their course. They've got something a little bit spicier here. Haunting, what do you make of that? Right? Like again, I mean, there's no point continuing to rag on it, Blazy. You've said the same thing like 50 times. Judas needs to shut up. That's
more like auras as a support, particularly thinking about the pattern.
I'm sorry.
I feel like it's more likely to be armor support just based on historical precedent. This is a god who works pretty well with her auras as a support, particularly thinking about the passive and then the auras on the one. And I think that Achilles support has actually been nerfed a little bit by his Smite 2 changes. The fact that you don't get the stun on the damage stance anymore means that early game you're forced into that tank stance, which takes away from some of your early game pressure.
Yep.
Now, even with a god like Izanami, I think what you want to do is out-pressure the Artemis Aphrodite and try and force them under tower so you can out-farm them and get to your late game earlier.
Love this.
In which case, what I imagine is we're going to see the Amaterasu support simply because Izanami is quite an independent solo laner, right? ADC. You can get to a stage of the game where you feel quite comfortable leaving your Izanami over there on
Perma,
her,
have you been
she's
playing
just
much
gonna
Smite
clear
2?
Very, very quickly, go and do her camps. She can play with relative safety.
Just noticed that
free,
Judas
which means you
has
don't
Fnatic headphones.
need to go and do her camp over there.
Pretty
on her
sure
own
that's
because she's
Fnatic's
just gonna
logo.
clear very,
Yeah, FNC.
very
Fnatic
quickly,
fanboy.
Go and do her camps. She can play
Playing some, yeah?
with
You've been enjoying
relative
it?
safety with that 3, which means you don't need a lot
Should
of
grab some games sometime.
heal in the lane. And instead, what you can do is use your armor to go around the map, set up for objectives, set up for kills with the aura, try and help with jungle invades with that speed, and try and work as this facilitator for the rest of the team. I think it's a little bit risky because her lockdown isn't the best when her ultimate is down.
Combat Blancator.
But
It is definitely
that
something to
said,
get used to, isn't it?
if you're planning to take objectives, which with a team who is playing this much pressure, I imagine what they want to do is force waves and then go to Gold Fury, go to Pyromancer. And Amaterasu
this.
does a great job of doing that because she stacks up that passive on them and then you're going to shred through them even quicker. So I think we're going to see Amma in the support.
See, I love how you justified that because
Yep.
it makes total sense. And I go, you know what? That sounds really good. This comp sounds sick. And then I look at Eternal Vanguard and I see, they've got the Thanatos for that quick mobility. They've got the Afro and Artemis, which can deal with some sustained pressure, right? With their own
No worries,
sustain.
Bummer.
They
Have a
can
good luck.
Defensively retreat.
Let me know.
heal back up, and
Let
then
me know
be
when you want to play.
healthy
I'm
enough
totally
to
down.
maybe dissuade some of that pressure. But the big one is this
Enjoy
Ra
your
being picked up,
lurkies.
which I presume will be going to the
Yeah,
mid
we
lane.
didn't get a chance
So
to talk
if
about
it
the
is a
Ra
mid lane
before we moved away from the Pixban's screen, so good job on Judas for picking it
I
back
would
up.
expect no aspect there. which means Searing Pain will do a lot of damage. If you are looking to pull an objective quickly and burn it down as quick as you can, but you don't have that lockdown potential, you're an absolute sitting duck for a Ra ultimate, maybe combined with a Hades or Thanatos ultimate to just completely negate any secure that you're hoping for. I actually love this Ra pickup, right? Now,
I think this would have been better, honestly, Judas, if you go they've got this Ra. I'm imagining no aspect, which means that they're going to have this big secure tool. If you are, I forget the other team's name. If your other team's name, what tools do you have? You know, what are they doing to kind of secure objectives against
but you don't
that
have
laser
that
beam?
lockdown potential. You're an absolute sitting duck. Completely negate any secure that you're hoping for.
Right, and then
Haunting
Haunting gets an opportunity then to talk about the same stuff that you're talking about, and then also go, but you know, other team have, you know, Izanami ult or Anubis ult, which, you know, doesn't have the same kind of instant secure potential, but does still have that really big burst. So maybe the goal of Skogs is to try and burst it down before they get a chance.
Really
Blah, blah,
good.
blah,
This
blah,
comp
blah, blah.
sounds sick. If it is a mid lane, if you don't have that lock, you're hoping have quite thought all those steps through that you've gone for. But it just works, right? Maybe it just naturally feels like, man, we need a big ultimate here. It could have gone for the Vulcan, similarly, of course. It could have gone for a few different gods. Even Hecate would work in this situation. But I actually really like the Ra pickup here for that defensive capability.
Yeah, we're just talking
when
way
it
too
comes
much.
to those objectives as well. So definitely a lot to watch for here. A lot of minute details. But would you say, Haunting, that for the Skogs in particular, they have to get a good start, right? If it goes 25 minutes and it's an even game, it doesn't look good for them.
See, and I hate this question because, and I do this all the time too, I'm so fucking guilty of it all the time, but you've essentially answered your own question before you even throw it off, right? You're there like, Haunting, would you say that they have to, you know, start early? Because I don't, you know, I think if they don't get it going before 25
If
minutes...
it goes 25 minutes
Right,
and
like,
it's
so
an even game,
you've already restricted kind of the usefulness of what Haunting's going to say. I'm sure Haunting's going to find other angles to talk about it, but you've kind of already taken the teeth out of Haunting's
it doesn't
argument.
look good for them.
Absolutely not. And I think it looks even worse if you get into a game with a lot of team fighting, a lot of sustained skirmishes. You've got two healers on the side of Eternal Vanguard, and without a traditional peel support, it's going to be tough for this Anubis to do a lot in these team fights as well. So I think if this game goes late and turns into a proper traditional back-to-front team fight kind of game, it's going to be a tough game for the Jungle Skogs.
Kina, how are you today, my love?
I do wonder how they'll handle that.
How
right?
is
Because
Best French?
There's a couple of ways to handle needing to get ahead early, right? You can either just
Okay, yeah,
Sid,
you guys are stuck in
but
desk hell for
talking-
forever.
Really well. even though
Right, Judas has said that game 2 is
playing was
better,
kind of
so I'm going
Put
to skip ahead to game
table,
2. I know we've just done the full
unsurprisingly
picks
there.
and bans for all of that,
moderate
but let's
game plan.
let's
right,
skip
actually
because I'm assuming
Which
I'm
god
going to
would
be
you
saying
prefer
most
in
of
the
the
solo
same.
lane? It's pretty similar matchup.
game normally
I think you'll turn
So
this around
let's-
later game stages. So let's see if the jungle got you are just Hades, even though they succeeded in that in game number 1. It's not something you're looking to do exactly. You are just looking to keep things steady and get that Bellona to those later game stages. So let's see if the Jungle's Cogs, can turn this around in game number 2, or will they have a similar story to game number 1? However, with the composition change up, Haunting, this
You could have dropped it to Haunting right there. You had a really strong drop.
which is
lane, you will see the change to, or will they have a similar story to game number 1?
Like, you could have dropped it there. Haunting can pick up something to talk about. You gotta trust Haunting to grab something there, because that's a really good place for Haunting to just go, yeah, here's what I think, right? Or here's what I would say in terms of the comp. But you give yourself a really good dropping point, and then you pick it back
in
up.
game number
You're like,
2,
you have no
or
need
will
to.
they have a similar story to game number 1? However, with the composition change up, Haunting, this comp, I think you'll agree, is far less dependent on getting a good start.
absolutely, and it's actually a comp where you don't necessarily mind if your start is
Okay, it's not
Absolutely.
like tons of
to
time
game
that you pick it
number
back
1.
up for,
However,
but like,
with the composition change up, Haunting, this comp, I think you'll agree, is far less dependent on getting a good start.
absolutely, and it's actually a comp where you don't.
yeah, I don't think we needed that at all. Like, I think Haunting is good enough to have picked that up by himself, or after you drop it to him, Haunting's gonna go straight to those comps, the first place that you can realistically talk about. So just trust yourself, trust in your drops, don't trust in your tier 2.
Necessarily,
You don't need
mind
to
if
you don't need
your
to fondle
start
it
is
so much.
Perhaps delayed.
Don't
as
fondle
well.
the balls.
Thor, a god that scales really well into the late game. Normally, you kind of want that Hydra's online, and you're canceling all of those abilities. The Sobek is good at almost all stages of the game. I think this is actually a fine composition for Jungle Skogs to play just a little bit more relaxed on.
Definitely, like you said, the chance to relax in a game where you're probably going in with.
Yeah, there's a lot more that you could have said there, honestly. I think you could have probably brought it from. And I guess it's slightly unfair because Judas did lead you into answering the question about the early game specifically. But I think you could have pivoted it from. They've got a comp that's specialized less towards getting off the ground early. I think you could have pivoted that into talking about specifically what the comp is aiming to do, right? Rather than just, oh yeah, no, these gods, they're pretty decent in the early game, but they're also better in the late game. They scale well in the mid, etc. I think you could have pivoted that more into you're absolutely right. This team comp is absolutely more to do with kind of having that semi-global pressure, and then looking to force objectives with Kraken, with season. My Alexa is yelling at me to take out the pins. You could talk about like what the team comp is actually supposed to do, rather than just going, oh yeah, well, things are fine. I think you could have reached deeper
lower
there.
Confidence than usual, right? We discussed how demoralizing that first game loss will be, no matter who you.
We should be talking right now, right on the map. We're focusing on this analysis, which is normally really good, but right on the map here, I can already see 2 points where a fight is about to break down.
That does affect you.
Right, we should be talking about this Bellona about to aggress onto the blue buff, and the Thor looking to either go on the chicken if there's an opportunity, or to
Even if
help
you're
Bellona.
this type of player who feels like they can recover quickly, it still does not feel good. So you definitely want to have something that you don't necessarily need to do the same thing on. However, getting very aggressive.
Like we could have covered this fight sooner. Yo, what's up, Zats? And last, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Yeah, we could have been talking about this way earlier, I think. And instead of talking about what are we talking about
Definitely,
here?
like you said, the chance to relax in a game where you're probably going in with a little bit lower confidence than usual, right?
Okay, with story building about the state of the mental of the team, which is really important for sure. But I think instead,
Just how demoralizing that.
As
first
soon
game
as you
loss will
see
be.
Bellona
No matter
move
who you
forward
are,
here,
right, that does affect you. Even
as no matter who you are, that does affect you, right? That's the end of that sentence. And now we're looking more towards a but it doesn't look like Skogs are gonna let that start getting them down, as they're
if
already
you're
looking to
this
get
type of player who
aggressive. Look at
feels
this
like they
blue buff,
can
right? Like because you're building this narrative of they might be feeling a little less confident, but straight away the players themselves are showing you actually we are feeling confident. We are feeling so confident, in fact, that we are looking for the level 1 invade.
recover quickly, it still does not feel good. So you definitely want to have something that you don't necessarily need to do the same thing on.
Yeah, because like you're still talking about how this team might be feeling a bit shaky while Bellona is hammering Hades away from his own blue buff, right? So like you need to be a bit more kind of cognitive of what's going on the map and kind of almost predict
However,
where these fights are
getting
going to
very
happen.
aggressive early on. Are Jungle Skogs looking to put that first game behind them as quickly as possible?
So this is good. You reverse it. You address it. But I just think you could have had a more impactful narrative there by focusing on it sooner.
On this Hades here in the Soul Lane. Also seeing Bayroneri fighting around the red buff 2v1 and doing kind of okay with this. Going for the steal.
Bayoneri, what are you
Again,
doing? Oh, okay.
Succeeding on the steal, and now all of a sudden it's a 3-on-2, and SnixJ gets completely isolated and abandoned.
Good.
What a way to get over game number 1.
Good call. You don't go too excited with it. Like it's a pop-off play for sure, but I like that you don't go overboard on it. It's it's not like a massively impactful thing. I think you could have
I thought this was
in the pivot away from it, you could have highlighted, something along the lines of, Skogs show up early and make sure to tell EV that they are not afraid to face them after their first loss. Something along those lines where you're kind of highlighting that, no, these players are not coming into this game feeling less confident. And you've got fucking experienced players on here, right? Bayonary, Pilot, they've been Phoenix, Phoenix, these guys have been playing for fucking years. Like, they're not gonna lose mental over
This is
one
exactly
lost
what
game.
we're going to see in game number 1 from this team, playing this kind of aggression around invades, particularly on like second spawn, after you've exploited the fact that your team gets so much more pressure. But I think a really nice use of the Thor aspect, and if you look, Leo has opted for the Bellona aspect as well, which
I like
means
this.
wanting
Talking
to
about
play
the aspects.
around your teammates a little bit more rather than that typical Bellona stuff.
Okay, small thing, right? Very small thing, Haunting, for you. I'm not sure. I don't think Bellona or Thor got drafted the first time around. And obviously you don't have to do it right now. You could do it later on. But the fact that you've highlighted both of them, as a new viewer, right, I wouldn't know what the importance of Thor getting aspect or Bellona getting aspect is here. Right? So if you're going to highlight Bellona has this aspect, they're taking advantage of Thor's aspect, what does that actually mean? Right? You don't need to like fully lay it out for me. But just be there like, oh yeah, they're taking advantage of Thor's aspect, letting him do this rather than this. I don't fucking know what Thor's aspect does, but this is why you need to tell me, right?
Style. So
Yes.
I think this is a really, really nice start for the Jungle Skogs. I think perhaps actually, given how comfortable.
Also, Zaz,
Eternal
thank you for the
Vanguard
follow,
got
by the
at
way.
End of game number 1. This is
I
a
don't
great
know
way
why
of
that
saying,
didn't
hey,
pop
hey,
up in
this
my
set's not over just yet.
um,
We're here to play.
in my
and
ears,
we
but I really
want
appreciate
to
that, man.
Force you to play a game this time.
Yeah, this is a new game, right? We'll have to make sure everyone's aware of that. But speaking of new game, it might be a new match, but it's the exact same outcome on the left lane. You saw Mario Bro get very, very low. Actually got plucked by Jigen while they were low, but did manage to escape yet again. So Jungle Skogs might be a little bit frustrated on that side of things, but at least knowing that they can still try to exude the same.
I think rather than telling us exactly what happened, I think we could have maybe focused a bit more on like, same thing's happening over here on the left-hand side. Mario Bro gets low, and that's going to let Skogs really push for pressure on this left-hand side.
Sort of pressure, because of course the Morrigan
Which
support,
you cover. So
similar to
fucking
Aphrodite,
ignore
in
me.
that they're very weak starter. It's really once you get either that Stampede.
So sometimes it really does happen that I make like a call or a comment, and like they immediately say what I tell them that they needed to be said, or something along those lines. So if that happens, please just fucking ignore me. Other than in some cases where like things could have been said before, should have been said sooner. Spectate a dog water game? Well, we could maybe do that. Could maybe spectate some dog water game if we get back into Smite content properly, like doing this kind of thing.
Then of course
We'll see.
Morrigan,
We'll
has
see how much
plenty
people
of
actually
poke
enjoy
for
this kind of
sustain for
content.
themselves and can keep themselves ticking.
How you doing
over
today,
quite
Tok Tok?
well. But up until then, definitely vulnerable to being out pressured, especially into a god like Sobek here. So plenty for the Jungle Skogs to work around, and that's why you see them getting so active early on. But do you think Eternal Vanguard will mind this Haunting? Are they okay just kind of letting things play out this way for the start?
I think they are. They still have it.
Do I love that question? Are Eternal Vanguard okay with getting fucked in the early
just
game?
kind of letting things play out this way for the start.
I think this question could be phrased better. Rather than kind of forcing EV to sound like they're taking this passively, I think maybe something along the lines of like, how does Skog's execution affect EV's game plan? Right? Like, rather than just being there like, this is happening, EV are dealing with it, do you think they're okay with that? Because obviously they're not okay with losing a kill early and losing pressure early. No team is going to prefer that, right? They might be okay with it, kind of. But I think it's a more interesting question to be more there like, well, how does this affect Vanguard's strategy? What could they do to pivot around it? What could they do
They
to
still have
mitigate
been capping
against
last
it?
Game. They've still got a team that scales really, really well. You've still got the Artemis to play as hyper carry if the game really does go long. But if you're a Jungle Skogs, you're probably looking at the way this game has gone and going, hey, they got 1,000 gold lead at 2.5 minutes into the last game, and look how that one went. So I guess we just play this the same way. And they have got that same buddy system of the
Okay, and
Ra
Haunting
Thanatos,
answers the
which
question the
was
way
an
that I
absolute
wanted the question to be
disaster deal
phrased,
with
which is
last
they're just
game.
going to play
So
their
it
own
really,
game.
I think, does come down to playing the kill lanes with this Sobek a little bit more effectively for Jungle Skogs if they do want to assert themselves in this game.
You do see more and more aggression in that dual lane. It's not netting itself any kills, but it's not necessarily supposed to. Just exuding some pressure for this upcoming purple buff spawn. But
You're talking
Eternal
about
Vanguard
Thanatos
wise
and
to this
left,
similar play
about
to
Thor
game
looking to
one, they
gank
do
the
rotate
chicken.
over
Nothing's really going to happen with it, though, so
and
that's
it doesn't even seem like
fine.
there's going to be an invade attempted by the Order side here, at least on that left-hand side of the map, because the right-hand side of the map, totally in their control. Now, we do have Tagvir making their way over slowly. They're going to get to this buff in time, but it will still be a 2-on-1, make that 3v1
yeah.
situation. And
catches it.
Tagvir surely going to attempt a bit of a steal with the Scythe, but there's just not really a whole lot of opportunity there. We did see that Scythe come out, does not connect, and we also see the blue buff going. the
Pilot
way
hit a
of
wall,
Leo on
a
this
wall stun
Bellona.
challenge.
So
Brackets impossible.
right side of the map this time, working out really well for Jungle Skogs.
I really like that as an adaptation as well. We saw that the right side was a pretty even side of the map all game. Last game, great pluck though here from the Sobek.
Oh wow, actually forces the transformation.
So, honestly, Haunting, I was about to say that was a really bad drop from you, because the chances of this turning into an actual fight are so low. But I don't know if you're just a fucking god of prediction, or if you just got hella lucky, but that was a great drop.
And the ults go flying from the dual lane of Eternal Vanguard. Now this Hades is low, but is alive enough and actually blinks away just to keep themselves safe, and just in case there's a secondary Hades on hand for Eternal Vanguard in this left-hand lane. But unfortunately for to do it, makes a long rotation over and not going to come away with the big rewards. Does get a couple of harpies and really wants to go for this. Of course, has the blink as well if they need to escape.
Yo, what's up? Serial designation and fan. I'm currently playing Final Fantasy 16, and I can already sense the gay vibes, and I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, there was a time when I was in school where I would have been very upset with that statement, but so like, okay, can I be fully real with you? My initial reaction to reading that was genuinely a, how fucking dare you? But that's like a pure reflex from being bullied as a kid and not realizing I was bi for like, until like 4 years ago. So thank you so much. That means the world to me. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for enrolling into the College of Bards serial. Are you here for VOD review content? VOD review? Are you a Smite fan? Are you a serial designation Smite fan? I'm gonna just press play on that.
Looking for spotted on the teleport. Never mind, the police are here to do it now. Can't just back safely, and this actually is a disaster for to do. They're gonna lose so much farm for this.
Absolutely.
Perfect drop. Love that. Really good. Didn't hold it too long. Told me what happened. Dropped it off when you knew that the fight was over. Liked it.
Able to back at this point. So really great response.
Good
from
stuff,
Jungle
Judas.
Skogs. This is one of those things where if you're the duo lane of Jungle Skogs, it really doesn't feel like you got very much.
Haunting, slow down. Breathe. Breathe. We've just had action, so I get the understanding, right? But you, at the end of the day, are here to bring... think of it like a push and pull, right? The chair 1 is here to up the energy, and the chair 2 is here to down the energy, right? You want to keep things at a nice baseline calm. So when Judas gets this run, unless he needs to drop it to you for a second for you to say a quick word and then pass it back to him if the fight's going really long, you should be looking, once we're out of a fight, to bring it back to that neutral kind of... I'm not saying, like, talk slow, but, like, we're speaking,
great
like...
response there on the solo lane. Dodoin still hasn't been able to back at this point, so really great response from Jungle Skogs. This is one of those things where if you're the duo lane of Jungle Skogs, it really doesn't feel
It feels like
you got very much.
It feels like you're speaking, like, a million words a second, right? By the way, I'm Ace. Good for you, man. Absolutely good for you. Thank you for sharing.
And Phoenix is probably...
Yeah, so yeah, just breathe.
Muttering under their breath, cursing about how long they've had to spend stuck under
See, this is better pace.
But
we made it to where we wanted to be, but that we wanted to bring that there a little
for your team
faster,
because it just is going to add up to so much for the Bellona, who has already got a little bit of a lead over there, having got that first blood. and going to turn that into even more. of a
Still
lead. And
wild
these
to me
are
that
both
Poseidon
gods
gets
who
three-
don't mind boxing, but
three
they
little
also
waves
don't mind
now.
If you don't want to
Doesn't
fight,
feel
because
natural.
They can turn that into further jungle advantage, and I think Leo is going to have some impactful rotations. I imagine we saw them really want to go for it last game, and they held out for as long as possible as like the lone standing member of this team. And I think this game they're really planning to have those big impactful rotations. Once that Eagles rally comes online, it's just a stun that sets up things like the Kraken even more. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, I liked that. I'm not really sure what the point of that sentence
For as
was.
long as possible as like the lone standing member of this team. Really want to go for it last game, and they held out for as long as possible as like the lone standing member of this team. And I think this game they're really planning to have those big impactful rotations. Once that Eagles rally comes online, it's just a stun that sets up things like the Kraken even
Okay.
more. I think
We're
it's
talking
going
about
to be a
Bologna.
lot of fun
Fine.
to watch.
Good. Yeah, we got Bologna got a kill, so that makes sense that we're talking about Bologna here. That's fine. Nothing says self-confidence like coming out to a streamer before my own parents. If it makes you feel any better, Serial, when I came out, I tweeted it. After my second day at my first ever LAN event, commentating at a LAN event. I did not tell my family until maybe 2 years after that. So like the entire Smite community knew that I was bi a long time before anyone in my family.
I'm staring at this XP per minute chart, and while you are, as expected, seeing Leo high on up there, look at Bayron Aries.
Wow.
630 XP per minute. That is nuts to have such a huge lead.
Love this.
It's
I love this
over
from Judas. So we've kind of run out of things to talk about here, right? Nothing action-wise is happening, which is such a nicer Smite game to cast than one where it's just action all the time. But it's so much nicer to have this moment where there's nothing really happening on the map. We know that nothing major action-wise is going to happen for a little bit. So Judas picks out a thing to talk about, which in this case is, wow, look at how much better Bayonary is farming. And I really love that.
100 XP per minute more than your opposing laner. That's outrageous, actually. You know, it's already netted itself a 1-level lead in, you know, what shouldn't be that much of a one-sided lane, but of course with a bad start for SnixJ, and maybe even a worse start for SnixJ, damage comes out from the Kraken, not quite enough. That didn't get the connected with all of it, and the beads did come out, but that will be, hold on, a kill in the right lane.
Okay, not much happened there, but the bees did come out. Kill on the right-hand side, right? Try and keep that energy up. I know we pivoted away a little bit. I know we didn't see the kill on the right-hand side, but that's still an impactful kill, especially when we've just talked about how important Bologna is to Skog's plan, and you know how she's going to start rotating when she gets ahead. And now Hades has managed to find. Thanatos is able to find a kill there. Then we could have just kept the energy going a little more before dropping off.
This changes things for Jungle Skogs. They want to invade this red buff clearly, but they're going to have to rethink this, because losing Leo in that situation, very necessary for Eternal Vanguard, but look, let's let them go for this Gold Fury. What a bait and switch. It's no red buff invade, it's a bigger prize.
It is, but they
Good drop, because you know that the rest of the team are going to come in. We let Haunting take it for a second. It's going to be all down to how long Haunting holds this mic, because this should be, judging on the rest of the map, like what we can see from here, this should be Haunting says like a sentence and then throws it straight back to
They may be
you.
a little bit slow on the uptake on this one, because Eternal Vanguard are on their way.
So yeah, that would have been perfect would have been perfect from Haunting if Skogs had have taken any longer and Eevee had more of an opportunity to engage in that fight. I mean, excitement calls like that are always they're really great for texture, and they can be really exciting to listen to. Unless you have really good synergy with your co-chair, doing it online can really trip people up, because it is not always very clear whether you are going to go, into, I'm going to take the mic. So we actually hear it from Haunting here, where he kind of stutters in what he wants to say. He kind of cuts himself off.
This one, because Eternal Vanguard are on their way.
That was really close.
So you end up with this really kind of awkward silence in what should be a really fun moment where this O translates to
Oh,
a...
it's Eternal
Oh my goodness, it's nearly stolen there by the Artemis, but Bayonary is able to secure it, right?
Vanguard
You have
on
that kind of
their
moment
way.
there. But instead we kind of get this awkward silence
That was
instead.
really close. that was really close. I got a lot of fear from that on behalf of the Jungle Skunks. But no, it does not go poorly. And yeah, they do get away with that one.
I really like that.
Yeah, and this is good from Judas. Yeah, it says one sentence. Let's Haunting take more analysis, which is exactly what we want to hear at this point in the game. Because again, we're back now to a point where Gold Fury's gone. There is no other objective on the map. Nothing is going to happen between these two teams for the
As a
next
decision
3
as well.
minutes
They've
at
been
least.
exerting so much pressure on the invades and having the heads-up approach and really good vision to be able to decide, actually, we're not going to go for the invade here. We're going to turn it into a Fury, which has
Yeah,
pushed
love
them
this.
to close
Really
to
good
a 2,000
analysis.
gold lead. Yes, things did go wrong from this point in the last game, but they weren't even able to get a single neutral objective in the last game. So I think they're just pressuring the map a little bit better and making some slightly better decisions. But Eternal Vanguard look like they've adapted too, because they want to come and play around this right-hand lane as well.
Okay, I think it could have been dropped earlier, but
This
generally
isn't even
fine.
adapting. This is just more of the same. A full grouping there, executing down Leo right there. But the rotation, fantastic from Jungle Skunk. Kraken comes out. Bayonary picking up a kill. But now, look, trapped in the vortex is Bayonary. And this is where the Eternal Vanguard have shined so well. They're now grouping together, looking to chase down this last member of Pilot. But that will be that for this push. However, there's another Hades ult on the way. Of course, that was the transformation previously. But that doesn't go well again for the Jungle Skulls. They need to watch now.
Okay, too long. It's like 10 seconds or so too long. Really good fight. Really good fight. As soon as we get
Together,
to
looking
this
chase
point,
down this last member of Pilot, but that will be that.
but that will be that. Right? It ends there. We know, like, realistically, yes, I know that that Koja Fox is ulting here, or I guess this is actually just Duduin who's ulting, and it was Koja Fox who ulted earlier. But we know 9 out of 10 times Jigen doesn't die here, and if he does, it's not massive news, right? It's not really going to lead to anything, so we can kind of afford to drop the hype on this specific kill. And we can drop it to Haunting there with a little bit more energy and a little bit more precision than kind of what ends up happening, which is
For
you
this push.
trail
However,
off a
there's
little bit as
another
you keep
Hades ult on the way. Of course,
finding
that was
little
the
things to talk about. So
transformation
that could have been
previously,
dropped
but
off to
that
Haunting a little earlier, I
doesn't
think.
go well again for the Jungle Skulls. They need to watch now Leo's situation. As much as this Bologna was feasting earlier, now they might find themselves feeding a little.
They might do, but I did like some of the return fire from the Jungle Skulks. They've not relented that lead just so much already. I like this pickup of the Poseidon for Bayonary. It's not a thing we talked about during the draft so much because we were thinking about the Kraken, but Poseidon able to up that movement speed as well, which means they're able to match SnixJ's rotations really nicely, which we've seen there. The other thing I'll say about that skirmish for Jungle Skulks, even though they did come out on the losing side of it, is they were able to force pretty much every ult from the other side. So you know that Morrigan ult is down, you know that the Hades ult is down, and those are things that you kind of want to play around, particularly because I feel like that Morrigan ult is quite an imperative part of what makes Morrigan support. So
Okay. We are talking way too much. When look at what happens on the map
want to play around, particularly
in the time that Haunting is talking here.
side of it, is they were able to force pretty much every
Like, I will tell you the moment that I would start commanding the mic as Judas, right? So let's go back
they
to.
did come out on the losing side of it.
Okay,
is
so I'm
they were
noticing
able to
that Bologna
force
and Hades are
pretty much every ult
fighting,
from the other side. So you know
noticing that
Morrigan ult is
Sobek
down,
and
you know
Thor
that
are
the
making their
Hades
way
ult is down,
over.
and those are things that
At this point, Hades is surrounded. This is when I may be looking to gently bring it over.
you kind of want to
Maybe at this point I'm like, does the kill on Hades really matter? He's 0-3. You know, if they get a pick that's split between 3, there's not really much stuff after the stuff they get from that. But we're still 9 minutes in. This is only the 6th kill, so we should be making a big deal out of when these kills happen. But yeah, this is when the mic should have been taken away
play
from
around,
Haunting.
particularly because I feel like that Morrigan ult is quite
Extra so here, because, like, Bologna just ults. Bologna literally just ulted. You can see it on the map,
play around,
right?
particularly because I feel
Hades
like that
dash,
Morrigan ult
And then you can see Bellona
is
move there with the ult to
quite
follow the dash. The
an
blink comes
imperative part of
through.
what makes Morgan's
Sobek
support
blink
so
dashes,
useful as a
plucks
support.
Hades back.
Without it,
Hades
she's much
dies.
squishier than a
And,
Guardian
you know,
in
you
Lack.
potentially have this moment here where these two, Rara and Thanatos,
Some
are
of
going
that
to come in.
utility. So if
but they
can
don't.
keep forcing Morganol on
Instead, a whole kill has just happened, and Haunting is still talking as if
their terms rather than on Morgan's
like
terms,
nothing has just happened.
that's hardly a bad thing.
Oh, it's a full-on 1v1 here. The ults go flying for both, but
No one
Phoenix
gonna
is the one
mention
that pulls
Dudu and
out
Diane?
first. We did see a revenge kill on the right-hand side onto Duduin. I believe it was Pilot picking that one up, and I think that was neat.
Okay, but we don't mention the fact that to get that kill, Leo ulted, Hades blinked, Sobek blinked, right? Like there was a lot of resources used for that kill, with no kind of objective. So I think we could have definitely been
needed for Leo as much as this.
And this is just as on Cat as it is on the casters, because we were focused on that left hand side. But when you are casting, when you're observing, it's a teamwork effort, right? The casters should be trying to direct Cat if Cat has missed something. So Cat obviously hasn't seen what's happening here on the right, or Cat has seen what's happening on the right, but knows that they're talking about the left and wants to highlight what they're talking about. Which, fuck what the casters are talking about. If it's not important, Cat, go focus on the things that are important. And if it's the other way round, casters, you should be directing your observers to where you want to be on the map. It's that teamwork element that you really need to get in. It comes with experience. It also comes with working with specific observers as well. And some observers who are newer, I don't know Cat, so this could be completely off base. Or when they're working with new casters that they haven't worked with before, they maybe don't have that confidence to just go, hey, look at this. Or maybe that's just their style where they want to kind of look at whatever the casters are talking about, but it's that push and pull of the camera people and the casters all looking for what's going on the map. Remember that the map is your biggest friend. It's the same thing when you're playing, it's the same thing when you're casting. The map is the most important part of the game. Most of your time when casting Smite, you should be looking at the map. It will tell you everything that you need to know. Unless you are mid-team fight, you are looking at the map.
Bellona, like I said, had a good start. You just need to stall the bleeding a little bit. There is still a lead in that solo lane, but it could very quickly get out of control in favor of Eternal Vanguard if you do let that stew. So good response there for Jungle Skogs. And while they've done worse in the fights, they've definitely done better just selectively taking these picks. So you need to continue to do that, right? Now we are seeing, like we mentioned earlier, a big response for Eternal Vanguard. They are now grouping for this right side respawn of buffs. The red buff getting killed by two people, the blue buff being pressured out by Duduin, making sure they get their way first as well.
Just talking too
both
long.
teams
Like
reacting to
again,
each other
I'm
really,
gonna
really quickly without-
potentially end up harping on this way too much. So I'm gonna like not stop and say it every time. But like, Judas, when fights aren't happening, you should be trying at every conceivable moment to get Haunting to speak about things, right? If you do not have something immediate to talk about, as in there's not immediate action happening, you should be trying to push Haunting to speak as much as possible. Conversely, when there is action happening, Haunting should be trying to let you speak as much as possible. Does that make sense? Like, that's your push-pull. Your chair 2 should be speaking more in the early game, and you should be speaking more in the late game. That's just MOBA flow. Not that you should take yourself out of the conversation, but most of your contributions to the conversation should be little thing, maybe a little joke, question, Haunting. So try not to hold the mic so much, because you get yourself in this position now where you've been talking for like a minute, and you need to find a moment to drop to Haunting before this fight starts. But because you've been speaking this whole time, you then kind of have to just do the fight. Does that make sense? Because you're already speaking, the fight's happening, you don't have time to wait. And again, that's just watching the map and trying to figure out what's happening. I'm just as bad for doing this. I do the exact same thing subconsciously, where I'll just keep speaking to fill air. But yeah, that's so. Just for the record, Judas, most of these criticisms are equally valid for me. So please don't think any of this is personal. How you doing, Surf? Welcome in. Yellow wave.
Acting to each other really, really quickly, which I really like. It's a huge chase down here, using that Morrigan ult aggressively.
Doing
Nice
terrible?
Aegis, but
Why
it's not gonna
terrible?
save for long. Oh, huge
Triple
counter
dunk.
though, coming out.
Doesn't
However, that
matter.
might be a mistake for Pilot.
Pilot's
just
dead.
over the wall, but not in time.
Like, think of how much more impactful this would have been
Dude,
if
do
it
make sure they get
was
their wave first.
haunting,
Well,
haunting,
so
haunting,
both teams
haunting, haunting,
reacting to
haunting,
each
haunting,
other
haunting.
really, really quickly,
Oh my
which I
goodness,
really
now
like.
look, the
It's a
blink
huge
forward,
chase down here,
dashing
using
down.
that
The Kraken's going to
Morrigan
come through, but it's going to be an
aggressively.
Aegis to match it. Thor dunks down onto 3, but it's going to be too late to save his teammate. Tries to go over the wall after the double stun, but the tick, boom. Thanatos claims credit for that one, right? Like, you give yourself so much more space to go when you allow yourself to rest. And that is the main reason, as the chair one, you should be forcing your chair two to speak. It's better for the audience, because your chair two has more opportunity to educate them about things in the game that they might not know already. And they have more an opportunity to pick apart the things that are happening from an analytical point of view. But B, because it gives you that space and that opportunity then to really ramp it up once it's your moment to come in with a gank like that. Because if you've already been speaking for, the better part of a minute or 2 minutes, whatever, you're kind of losing that element of, okay, let's change up the vocal texture, make this fight even more impactful. You know it's impactful as the viewer because the smarty, talky guy stopped talking, and now it's the ook action brain guy is talking. That make sense?
Time, Eternal Vanguard there on their terms, haunting. Take a fight and win the fight.
And that was what I was almost warning against, right? If you can force this Morrigan out aggressive, or sorry, out of defense.
Plus the game going 16-4, 88k.
Using it aggressively.
Jesus,
and
that's a bad feeling.
Synergizing it so nicely.
That's a
with
bad
the other
feeling.
things that this team
I didn't
can
win a
do.
single
Tegvir,
game
great
on
there the
Sunday,
dunk down
if
with
that helps
Thanatos,
stuff. I went
able to turn
like
that into
0
2
and
kills,
5.
and then I really like the Morrigan
And then
using
won
the
like a
utility
10-minute surrender at the end of the day.
as
I don't
well
count that as a
to
win.
Yes.
Make up for some of what she lacks as a traditional support. So putting down that mushroom, keeping the team nice and healthy so they can continue to push. I think that turns into a really nice way of playing Smite. We talk about Smite being the game that's about the stuff after the stuff, and what we saw there was a nice 2 kills into some good lane pressure. Really, really well played.
That's not
there.
stuff after the stuff though. Like, honestly, I would be kind of criticizing Eevee for not going for something else like the Pyro after this fight, because we get this big fight.
This
Oh, they
team
do go
can
for the
do
Pyro.
Tegvir using the utility of these down
Oh wait,
with
but they
Thanatos,
drop it.
able to turn that into 2 things that this team can do. Tegvir great there on the dunk down with Thanatos, able to turn that into 2 kills, and then I really
That should be a bigger deal, because Ra has ult here, and they get scared off by Bologna Sobek when they could have probably.
like the Morgan.
Well, they dropped that.
Great there on the dunk down with Thanatos.
They dropped the Fury on 1100. I guess it's a bit of a risk. You know that Pilot has Eagles Rally here, but like, I don't know. Like, I would probably be criticizing the play here from Vanguard for not forcing the secure on Pyro here, because we talked it, right? You even highlighted it on the desk how Ra has that big objective secure pressure, right? You made a big deal about how it's going to be really difficult to get any objectives because Eevee drafted into this Ra, and now they have the opportunity to showcase that,
Able to turn
but
that into 2
they
kills, and I really like the
completely
Morgan
wuss
using the
out on sight. And it's not even like Bologna's massively ahead. She's even with everyone else there. 11, 11, 11. Morrigan's 10, but she's the support, so, a level down on your support. Like, that should be, for all intents and purposes, okay, we're just going to chicken ult the fucking Pyro. Like, that should be more criticism there on the play. Don't be afraid, like, don't flame the players, right? There's a difference between going, that was shit, what the fuck, Eevee, you absolute wetties, and going, I'm actually disappointed there in Eternal Vanguard. They have the Ra ult, they have that ability to secure the Pyromancer there, but Leo and Jigen walk over, and that's going to be enough to scare them off the objective. That fight, while impactful then, isn't really going to give them too much in terms of long-term pressure. Just goes a little bit more towards closing that gap of gold and XP, right? So like that's all you get to talk about. But
And that
instead,
turns into
here
a really nice
you talk about the stuff
way
after
of
the stuff.
playing.
You talk about how the stuff after the stuff is lane pressure. Lane pressure is fucking nothing, right? Because Skogs just come back
Smite
in here.
needed
They're
to
like,
grab
okay,
Smite
we'll
in the
reset
game
the
that's
lane
about
pressure.
stuff
Here's
after
me
the
freezing
stuff,
the
and what we
wave.
saw there was a nice 2 kills.
So don't be afraid to criticize the play when it doesn't, you know, go how it needed to for things to work, right? You get 10-minute games. That sounds like a blessing for me. Why would you like? That's so sad. You're like, I want to play the game, but I would rather if the game took less time. 7-9, the other one, the lobby closed on us because I broke the game with Herc. Yeah, I lost 7 out of 8 of my last games. Jeez. Okay, but all right, hear you out, I get it.
Really, really well played there by Eternal Vanguard. And if they keep up these very heads-up picks, then this game is going to get out of control again, I think, for Jungle Skogs. That said, I think the macros...
If most of your games last 6 to 7 minutes average, I could use a little more time to do what? To play more games? Are you... Are you saying if your games are shorter, you could have more games? That's time I'm missing. So like instead of playing like 4 30-minute games, you're there like, nah, what if I could play 8 5-minute games? What's up, Smurfy? Yeah, so apparently if you Herc push a Danza in leaf form at a certain part of the assault map, he gets stuck outside the map and the lobby will just close. What? What? In Smite 1 or Smite 2? I can't get 30-minute games. Smite 1 issue, honestly. Instead of the game, he's literally playing Terraria on stream. Really?
Been a little
Like
bit
between
better for
deaths or
Jungle
what?
Skogs this game, or at least they've kept
Or
them
between
guessing a
queues?
little bit more. We've seen a couple of group
Yes.
ups from Eternal Vanguard that have maybe looked a little bit aimless, whereas last game everything felt very intentional.
Good. See, that's excellent. That they're talking about how some of these group ups from EVs are feeling a bit pointless. That's absolutely true, especially when they're not using their ultimates, their secure ultimates, to secure objectives. Right? Hammer that point in.
So if they can keep them guessing,
Between
if
queues,
they
can't
can
do the
take
between
advantage of
deaths.
some of these groups, like
Right.
we've already seen with Bologna,
'Cause he never dies? 'Cause
'cause
Rat's just goated?
While Duduin is sort of just left waiting.
Rat's
for an
ending
opportunity
every
to do
queue with 0
anything.
deaths. Is that what I'm hearing?
Then this game feels like it's
Immortal?
much more of Jungle Skogs' game, but we've seen a couple of moments where game 1 has slipped back into focus, and that's what worries me about this.
Definitely, like you say, responding well, our Eternal Vanguard, and you have to worry if you
Okay, I like that. I like the little narrative building there. It's
Jungle
fine.
Skogs.
It's good.
or to not get caught up in, oh man, every time we try something now, they figure it out and they've got us. No, you need to try something else. Try something new, and then you can go back to plan A.
Well, like, and here's the thing, right? By not pointing out that they fluffed the Pyromancer, we kind of create this, like, false narrative where we're talking about how, like, things aren't working for Vanguard. It's not that things aren't working. They got 2 kills in that fight. They should have walked away with the Pyro as well. The story here should be that Vanguard aren't feeling confident enough in themselves to flag down these objectives, rather than they're trying things and then it's not working and they need to try new things.
Right? If you try
Like we by avoiding the topic, we're literally jumping down a narrative that is not true. Does that make sense? I was legit like, where did Danza go? A short bit after we see him stuck outside the map, unable to do anything. Both teams collectively jumping and staring at him until the lobby closed. That should have been recorded, man. That sounds funny.
plan A and you move to plan B, then you've had to move to plan C.
Good
You
laser
go
beam.
back to plan A.
It's
at
really
that
good.
point,
It's just
you
a
know,
good
you can
laser beam.
definitely make use of, like you said, keeping Eternal Vanguard.
And again, Judas, we're talking here. I know Haunting did just stop talking. I'm not as mad at you here because you've literally been holding the mic for like 15 seconds. But again, we're in the situation now where there's a fight and you're mid-sentence.
Guessing, and a good flank actually there from Jigen, trying to select the target. Does end up selecting one, but probably a poor choice and gets caught there. You don't want to be plucking the support in that sort of situation. And fortunately there for Jigen, does fall down on the Sobek, their first death.
And we
of
still
the
have
game.
the
But
mic.
They've had a better game this time, especially compared to the Achilles. You just need to not get too anxious like that because it
There should have been a drop
Especially
straight after that
compared to
kill.
on the Soul
Drop
with their
straight,
first
drop it
death
straight
of the
back
game.
to
They've had a
haunting,
better-
because you can see them here going left, right? This is one of two things. Either they're going all the way to left lane, because if you look at the map, right, purple buff down, all the back camps in the left-hand side of the jungle are down, including the neutrals. So they're not going into left lane, left jungle to farm. That's number one. Roll that out your brain. So either A or B, they are either going to the left lane to kill Artemis, sorry, to kill Cernunnos, or they're going to start grouping up around Gold Fury. Either way, Judas, you need to drop this to Haunting so that you can be ready for the fight that's probably happening, or going to happen, because Skogs are also making this
game
rotation into the jungle.
This time, especially compared to the Achilles, you just need to not get too anxious like that because it opens the door for something like this, a potential Gold Fury attempt for Eternal Vanguard.
Really like the way though that the Koja Fox is playing a little bit.
I guess
of
you drop
Vanguard
it with
here
enough
for the
time.
team scouting
So
out
I guess it's not
where
too bad.
the Poseidon is going to be, because that's what you're worried about is, do we get
Oh,
Kraken
wow.
and lose? We may have lost our support, but I think the Gold Fury was
And Haunting the exact same to you here. This should
the
be
team
like
scouting
Judas drops it to you a little bit late, yeah, but
out where the Poseidon
as soon as this
playing a little bit
happens,
of Vanguard here for the team scouting out.
and Judas, equal to you, stop being so polite, right? If there is action like this happening, this is an all-out chaos fight, right? You need to just cut him off. Just talk over him. Just tell him to shut up. Or even just start talking, right? I quite like the go-to hold that thought, right? Is a go-to for me. But like a solid just like going into the fight is fine. Haunting at this point, just, you know, either lay it up for Judas, so give him like a hold on a minute, Morrigan's going in, or like something to pick up from, but you gotta cut yourself off as soon as you see this action
Where
happening.
the Poseidon is going to be, because that's what you're worried about is
So
Vanguard
hold on.
here for the team scouting
1,
out
2,
where the Poseidon is going to be, because
3,
that's what you're worried about
4,
is, do we get
oh,
Kraken
wow.
5,
and lose?
6,
We may have lost our
7,
support, but I
8,
think the Gold Fury
9,
wasn't really
10,
the main target there.
11,
Yeah, definitely
12,
looking to set a trap, but the trap has
13.
been
Like, that's 13 seconds of action that we just don't cover. Right? Like, this fight should be
Vanguard here for the team scouting.
Vanguard for the team now scatters. Hold on a second there, Haunting. Morrigan's going in. The transformation's good, but look at the return damage on the Kraken. Blinks away, but it's gonna land in a whirlpool. Downfalls Bayonary. Tiga is able to go. I don't know. Is gonna get the return kill there, but look, the dunk comes through. Stun is good so far. Artemis arrows come through. Health bars are low. Here comes Cernunnos from the left-hand flank, but Searing Pain takes down another one, but Cern is still chucking it down through the backside. He's gonna take a lot in return, but in the end, it's gonna be a clean wipe for the Skogs. 2 fall down in return for 4. Right? Like, that's a clean fight there. That definitely should have happened, right? You should have covered that fight. Instead, like, we get none of that.
Phoenix right
None
on
of this
Phoenix.
fight is really covered
We may
until
have
we
lost our
get
support,
to
but I think the Gold Fury wasn't really the main target there.
yeah,
like this is big as well, right? This isn't just like a random jungle scrap. Whoever wins this fight probably gets Gold Fury, right? So this is a big deal. The teams are even right now. It's 13 minutes in. This could be a really big tipping point fight, depending on how it goes. So this is an important one to cover as well.
definitely looking to set a trap, but the trap has been sprung, and Phoenix right on cue again, traded out one-on-one. The 1v1 and the duelators come back to fight again. It's very close, but it does go in favor of Jungle Skogs, and they get an extra kill to go with it. It's a 4-on-4 that nets a 2-for-4 for the Jungle Skogs. Exactly.
It's a 4-on-4, then that's a 2-for-4 for. That's too many numbers, Judas. Make it easier for my simple brain.
Exactly what they needed, because that was getting very slippery.
Yeah, so once you get into the cast there, it's good, but like, because you jump into it so late, you have to compress a lot of the energy instead of giving it decent time to breathe. Like, it's a surprise engage, right? Like, Morrigan goes into that and then gets killed because she blinks back into the whirlpool. So it's already kind of exciting, right? You should come into this with a decent amount of energy, but because you've compressed the fight, you miss the first 15 seconds of the fight, you kind of lose out on a lot of the build that you could get there. So just
Target there.
be aware of that.
Yeah, definitely looking to set a trap.
Midas,
The trap's
be
been
nice.
Sprung, and Phoenix right on cue. Again, traded out one-on-one. The 1v1 and the dual laters come back to fight again. It's very close, but it does go in favor of Jungle Skogs, and they get an extra kill.
4v4
to go with it.
results,
It's a
2v4.
4-on-4 that nets a 2-for-4 for the Jungle
2
Skogs.
4
Exactly
4.
what they needed, because that was getting very slippery.
Really, really love that fight there for Jungle Skogs. Their always turn of fight, which I think is just going to be a huge
I don't.
confidence
That fight's
booster
really
based on the
messy
way
for
these
Skogs.
game's been going when
Oh,
it
yeah.
comes to group.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. Skogs are the people who got engaged on. Yeah, no, that is a good fight
Vanguard
for Skogs.
have
Sorry.
had the upper hand so
Haunting's
far.
fully
I think
right.
The thing you're maybe a little disappointed about, though, of your Jungle Skogs is none of your health bars were big enough to really think about taking the Gold Fury. But turning a fight like that and showing that you still have
Two
game
fours.
here is
2 4 4
huge,
4 4.
particularly
It's a big
shutting
number.
down some of those problem members. Tegvir and SnixJ, I think, have been the real troublemakers on this Eternal Vanguard team. So getting those guys out of the picture for just a moment and showing that you are able to win these.
I like that we've identified the big threats here. I like that a lot.
Right.
It's good to build kind of characters into your cast so that you can like know who your anchor points are in terms of like the narrative of the cast. So like we've already focused on Bayonary, we've focused a little bit on Leo. Now we're focusing on Tegvir and Snix.
That's brilliant for Jungle Skogs.
Also, really worth noting that Koja Fox actually was 3-0 going into that fight, so was a shutdown kill for Bayonary. Now, yes, Bayonary fell because they got collapsed on by the Thanatos immediately after dealing with the Hades, but still did what they need to do, right? If Hades jumps on you, the only option you have is to just dump kit and pray, and did that very well. Did enough damage to take the Hades down one-on-one. Yes, you do fall to the Thanatos right after, but you're almost expected, right? When so much is committed to you to out of backline like that. Oh, there's a blink into a pluck onto SnixJ. That's a lot of damage, but not quite enough damage just yet. Pilot, though, right on
Fine.
with
I
that
mean,
spin
same thing
to
that I
win
said
and
before.
winning. That's a tough
Judas
kick up
is just
there
holding the
for
mic
SnixJ, actually.
a
Just
little
wandering,
too
trying to
long.
get a little bit of farm, and, well, punished quite
Right hand
heavily
side of
for
the
it.
map.
Now, Goldfew way exposed.
Right hand
There is
side of the
no
map.
secure
Right
for
hand
Eternal
side.
Vanguard.
Absolutely. And
Okay,
this is
well,
a
the Gold Fury
really
is
good
happening as
decision
well.
here from the Jungle
That's-
Skogs
that's-
to turn
that's
this
more
into
important.
a Gold Fury attempt without the Ra there. It's all about your Kraken, which sadly is down.
There is no
We're gonna
Kraken.
have to play a little bit carefully around
But
this.
there's no Searing Pain
I
as well.
like the plan here with
Ooh,
Pilot
actually,
play
Morgan
as
around the
a
flank.
loner and just try and keep them out.
Koja Fox is frightening me,
Koja Fox
sneaking
already
around
ran away.
behind there.
It's fine.
Did not opt to go in, and Bayonary does secure that there. Koja Fox had the ultimate there. I almost wonder if you could have gone in with something like a Thanatos or a Thor ult, but
Handful of
opted not.
dual-
I think if Koja Fox is gonna ult anything there, she just turns into Ra and tries to snipe it.
One feels good.
Yeah, that would be really good right there, but no, opted not to. Maybe playing it a little bit safe. You don't want to give up the Gold Fury. And
Oh, that's so... Oh my goodness, the wall.
Pluck Bayonary under the tower, trying to.
I think, honestly, Pilot kind of half kills SnixJ there, or
As
Bayonary.
much damage as they can. The scythe is perfectly.
Aegis
Aegis,
is too
but
early.
The execute is on point. Koja Fox
Kind of
really
Zatman's the fucking relic there, right? Like Bayonary is dead to rights. there is
Bayonary
no
under
way
the
out of this
tower.
situation for Bayonary. Like either he scythes, he Aegis the scythes and blocks the lurking in the waters, or he doesn't Aegis the scythe and dies. But like he dies either way, so bit of a
trying to
Zatman relic
dish out
there.
as much damage as they can. The
Like
scythe is
I'm not sure what the objective there is. Real G's would have seen the Gold Fury was far away and the kill inside lane was coming sooner. It's one of those things where you don't want to overload your audience, right? Like you want to be there. Like yes, the killing rate is important. Is it more important than focusing away from the Gold Fury, right? Because in this Gold Fury fight,
tough pickup.
Um,
there, though.
I went too
It's
far.
there, yes, you have to
Right, in
play.
this Gold Fury fight, you've got Morrigan here, and you've got Artemis here. Yes, you have people zoning them away, but you're in a position here where Morrigan could transform into Ra or into Bayonary for the Kraken. Bayonary doesn't have his own ult to secure it with. So all that Skogs really have to secure the Gold Fury is CERN ult. So I think it's a smart call from them to focus here on the left-hand side. Leo dying doesn't really do much other than, to touch on the fact that two members of Vanguard are on the right-hand side. go to the kill, then look at Gold Fury HP. I can see what you're talking about, right? From where we're sat, right, where we have that hindsight, it makes sense. In the moment, I cannot blame the casters at all for not focusing on the right hand side. I think maybe like when we're here,
tough pickup.
right, when we're in this situation, I think the camera should have, instead of following Sobek here, because we can't really tell if they're looking for these picks in the jungle or if they're looking to set up around Gold Fury, but we can tell that Tegvir and Duduin are looking to engage on the right-hand side. I think this is where the camera should have gone to the right-hand side.
Trying to get a little bit of
and then, you know, we would have seen this whole thing here. Blah, 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 blah. We would have seen Leo. At this point, though, like, you go, okay, Leo's about to get fucking killed or get a turnaround. Who cares? Now we want to go pivot back over to the Gold Fury.
Absolutely. This is a really good
okay. I need to pee real quick, so I'm just gonna put Judas' stream on while I pee. I'll be right back. I'm
because
just peeing.
There's not really a lot to analyze here, and it's nice to get Blazy's reaction to that.
That big Donkey Kong able to step around it. Goodbye, Morrigan. Able to pick up another in the mid lane, but what a whiff! My goodness, left lane.
Yeah, this is a tough spot now for Blazy in that, and this is maybe something for Rosie actually a little bit. So, oh cool, I get to be on Blazy. Hello Blazy fans. I'm not quite the same level of bardage going on, but yeah, hopefully it's acceptable for a pee break. So what I find here for Blazy is Blazy has seen the nuts thing happening in left, then someone has died in mid, and someone has died somewhere else. Now, I'm pretty sure this is an armor diving the Morrigan. I didn't even see this. I'm pretty sure there's an armor diving the Morrigan, and they've both died under the mid tier 1 tower.
Yeah,
and yeah, you can see it on the map there that's what happens. But what's happened for Blazy here, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong from you, Rosie here, but Blazy's reacting to what's happened here. And then there's just like kills popping up on screen, and then the camera's sent over here. So Blazy's thinking, oh, I need to talk about what's on screen, aka the mid lane, and these kills that have happened. But Blazy doesn't know what's happened because we've missed it. I actually think you've captured the correct thing, seeing the thing in left. That's more interesting than just whatever this tower dive was. I would say
I'm also like tired.
Yeah,
like,
you're also,
these
yeah.
productions. Like I come back from work from
and then straight on
5 a.m. in the morning. So
no, yeah, I'm not even saying it as like a how to describe it. I think going to the mid lane to show that this is what's happened. There's basically two ways to do it. You could have either stayed on the Medusa because that's what Blazy is reacting to and everything, but the way that you've decided to go to the mid lane instead, this should have been more of a communication to the audience to say, oh, by the way, this is where the kills were. Blazy can talk about whatever he wants to, and I would probably prefer that Blazy just stays on the thing that they were reacting to and maybe just discuss that. You could probably touch on the fact that there were these kills in mid, but you see now what Blazy's saying, the words that are coming out of his mouth is like catching up to his brain, basically, where his brain is, all right, I'm flabbergasted by what I've just seen, but also what happened just now? How did two people die? Where did they die? Because there's nothing to show where they've just died, right? It's not like there's an X on the map, which I think they should add. It's like a most recent death, whatever. We don't know where they've died. You can just about see the sign. So he's kind of trying to then shuffle back into position, and like I said, it could have been assisted by if you just left the camera on Medusa, but I think what should have happened is you've moved the camera to show an audience, and Blazy should just stick to one thing, in my opinion there. But come back to this later, maybe when you've had a chance to mention it, or just say, and there's been some other kills somewhere, I don't even know where that happened. You can talk about, because this is game number 2 of what was a massive kill game in game number 1, and then game number 2 has got 7 kills in the first 4 minutes. Being willing to just say, I have no idea what's going on, there's just kills happening everywhere, there's whiffs happening elsewhere, I think that's fine, again, in the context of
Judas.
this game.
Hope he was saying good things about me. Right, let's carry on, shall we?
Decision here from the Jungle Skogs to turn this into a Gold Fury attempt without the Ra there. It's all about your Kraken, which sadly is down, so they are going to have to play a little bit carefully around this, but I like the plan here with having Pilot play as your zoner and just try and keep them out.
Koja Fox is frightening.
I don't like
Have
this.
to play a little bit.
Sorry, I
the
was kind of
decision.
zoned out
There
for a
is
moment
no
there. Oh wait,
I
we've
like
already.
the plan here with
Yes, Kojo
We've done
Fox is
this.
frightening me, sneaking around behind there, did not opt
Yeah,
in.
that's
Trying to dish out as much. Kojo Fox, really experienced.
okay.
clear,
Here we go.
But the execute is on point. Kojo Fox, really experienced.
Yo, minus
clearly
your first?
On this
It's
Morrigan
crazy.
pick. It's flexing how many choices they're going for.
I loved that. That was such a excellent display of how this Morrigan support works.
Right, now they're doing the
particularly with
Pyromancer.
Turning into
Why are we talking about the
such a high
Pyromancer?
utility character like the Sobek. We've seen a lot of the Hades so far.
Yep.
And really showing off what Sobek does in Smite 2. I think this is one of the reasons why Morrigan
Should have been looking at the Pyromancer
is
then.
Morrigan is one of those characters that
That's-
rewards having high
that's
knowledge of
definitely
the
a
game, which is
camera
something that
issue.
sports typically need to do, not only in
We
terms of
need to
having
be
a
looking
good
at
God
that
pool themselves,
Pyromancer
but
rather
knowing
than
what it is
for-
they're trying to stop the other team from
This
doing.
is
And
it's
so-
cat.
If you're a support, you've probably played a decent amount of Sobek in your time, so you can just turn into the Sobek and execute those kind of
I'll move
plays
over here for a moment so you
really,
can
really
see
nicely.
top left
Seeing
corner
the
here.
opportunity to present
There's
itself
people casting.
for pluck under tower and then turning it into a kill. Excellent heads up play there.
But yeah, that's a that is a both cat should have really been on that from a camera perspective. Casters should have definitely at least touched on it, right? Even if it's just and you know after that fight, EV are gonna be able to slink off with a fire giant, while Skogs try and regroup or something, you know, something along those lines. We don't need to like watch it die, but like we need to know that it's happening. Are they new to camera work? I honestly don't know. I feel like Cat does a decent amount with other leagues. I've not worked with Cat before. And at the very least, Cat's new to me. But I also haven't really been aware of the talent scene for the last kind of few years. So
From
I don't know. Feel like it should have been swapped from Thor to Beck since he's walking there. Yeah, that too. But I think like from here, it should have been with like we're focusing on like Morrigan or just anyone over here, right?
And really support.
But yeah,
What
I think
skills a
as
character
soon
like
as we
the
get to
Sobek,
like
we've seen a lot
here,
of the
we can
Hades
switch over to
so
Sobek and
far.
maybe fly
Yep.
along with
Not
Sobek
just
here.
something that sports typically need to do, not only in terms of having a good god pool themselves, but knowing what it is they're trying to stop the other team from doing. And
Yep.
so, if you're a support, you've probably played a decent amount of Sobek in your time, so you can just turn into the Sobek and execute those kind of plays really, really nicely. Seeing the opportunity present itself for pluck
Scary
under
how
tower
fast Morrigan
and then turning
can
it into a kill.
transform and do
Excellent
things
heads
in
up play
Smite
there
2.
from
'Cause that was like
Kojo
a
Fox and Eternal
second
Vanguard.
between pressing
Oh, we've
for
been blessed today with a game that is 17 minutes in and is like almost
Dead
dead
even,
It's
yeah.
about 100, maybe 150 gold in favor of Jungle Scogs.
Look
but it is
right,
so
killing
close
Bologna.
across the map.
Yeah,
There's a
actually, never
battle in
mind,
the
wait.
right lane, though.
Hold on, I
Leo
thought that
actually
was
taking a kill
gonna go the other way.
1 versus 2 onto Dedu and does
ganking
pay
who?
for it with their life.
like why are we
Jungle
following
Scogs, but it
Sobek
is
here
so
rather than looking
close
at Bologna?
Across the map. There's a battle in the right lane, though.
Like we're missing all of this action because we need to be over in that right
Leo
lane.
actually take
So that's my biggest piece, my biggest note for you, Cat, is to follow this action wherever it's happening, because like we should have swapped over to see Bologna and Duduin fighting for like maybe like 20 seconds ago, and we should be maintaining there, or you know following at the very least we should be following Tegvir
but it's about
as soon as we see
100,
him kind
maybe
of coming in
150
at this
gold
moment, right?
in favor of Jungle Scogs, but it is so close across the map. There's a battle in the right lane, though. Leo
600
actually
gold now.
taking a
That's a
kill,
big kill.
1 versus 2 onto Dedu. It does pay for it with their life, but we do see the response coming in from the rest of Jungle Scogs. This is a very staggered fight. We see a very low health bar there for Tegvir, who still wants to stick around, though. They are
Tegvir
close.
misses that.
Thanatos over, throws the scythe, misses the scythe, and
Good body
returns
block.
tail
Really
and
good body block.
runs, as Thanatos is likely to do. However, well, there's a bit of a response for Jungle Scogs. The response
I think genuinely in this
Thanatos
moment
is likely to
you can see the fight's about to either kind of fizzle out or it's going to draw into kind of a medium long chase sequence. I think
do.
Scythe
Scythe
hold on,
misses the
where are
scythe
we?
and returns tail and runs, as Thanatos is likely to do. However, well, there's a bit of a response for Jungle Scogs. The
Yeah, I think as Thanatos is likely to do, I think that's a good place to drop to Haunting. I get the want to kind of run it on. But again, just talking a little long,
Response
I
for
think.
Eternal Vanguard is so much higher that it's just about getting away here. Now, Jigen just trying to keep Pilot alive and probably sacrifices themselves.
Goodbye.
And does so in the process. Snipe coming out there.
Yeah, like if we drop to Haunting here,
Well, there's a bit of
right?
a
Haunting
response
gets to
from
go
the
blah blah blah
response
blah
for
blah
Eternal
blah
Vanguard is
blah
so
blah
much
blah 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 blah
higher
blah
that it's
blah,
just about
and then drop back to so like you give Judas a moment to kind of stop and breathe, and then Judas can pick it back up renewed. We get that change in vocal texture, so the audience isn't just like listening to one voice for an extended period of time. And then we get to have this next stage of the fight, which
just trying to keep
Judas is
Pilot
just
alive,
fine.
but probably sacrifices themselves and does so in the process. Snipe coming out there from SnixJ. Pilot might still be in trouble. Has to burn the beads. Does just about get
Yeah.
away for a moment.
it's a good wall.
Pilot
Save his. I mean,
managing
does he
to
need the
get
wall to
out.
save his
Has
life?
to thank
Probably.
Jigen there in the comms, but all the while, a little bit of solo farming coming out for Bayroneri. I don't know that that's probably still quite a beneficial fight for Eternal Vanguard.
That's a big pickup there. Like, Judas, you need to be calling that Kraken and Aegis were used there. Like, that's a really important relic. And then you can set up for Haunting. Because you can say there, bit of solo farm for Bayoneri. Oh my goodness, he's going to try and engage here on Mario, bro. That's a lot of damage. That's going to be Kraken for Aegis.
Quite a
Haunting,
beneficial
that
fight
could be
for
a
it.
really big... that's now a really big target painted on the ADC for EV. Because, like, and then Haunting gets to talk about how Skogs, you know, they can now look for more aggressive plays on the left-hand side because Artemis doesn't have Aegis,
it
right?
wasn't just solo farm. There was a little notification that we got pop up during that Benny Hill chase that the middle tower, tier 1 tower, did fall, and we're about halfway through the tier 2 tower there in middle lane as well, which opens up the map quite a bit in favor of Jungle Skogs. So it's kind of hard. We're looking at sort of an apples to oranges situation. A great fight for Eternal Vanguard that definitely helps them out, but the macro losses for them are a little bit harder to account for.
We should be looking at graphs
It's always about that,
at
right? You
some
mentioned
point.
the
I don't
stuff
think we've
after
seen
the stuff.
graphs
What about
so
the stuff
far.
during the stuff, right? You still have to
Like,
do something.
don't.
Now, Bayoneri,
This is the other thing as well. Don't ever be afraid to ask your observer to pull up graphs or pull up potential stats. If you want to look at the GPM, ask for the GPM. If you want to look at the golden hand, ask your observer to pull up golden hand. Maybe, you know, you don't necessarily phrase it as like pull this up, but like you know, hit them with a, oh, I wonder if we could have a look at the graphs here, or, you know, something like that. Basically just to prompt them, and then if it doesn't happen, you're not like throwing them under the bus. You can kind of be there like justifiably. The audience could be like, oh, maybe they couldn't. Like, I asked Rosie during my cast on the Saturday, I was like, I wonder if we could have a look at how many wards each player has placed. And you can actively see on the stream Rosie cycle through every single stat point. And she just couldn't find it. So, like, at that point, it's like, okay, fine. Rosie had a look. I asked. We couldn't find it. That's fine. But don't be afraid to ask, because we have not stopped to look at the graphs once. And it's such a good, useful piece of information to pull back from. And also pull talking points from, right, as well. You get really good information about the state of the game.
have made a rotation
just looking at the
over there,
graphs.
right? Because that was the numbers advantage, right? It was the presence of SnixJ which did net them a kill as well onto Jigen. So definitely not pointless for SnixJ. You'd be quite happy if you're there. Oh, if they fall
Little
down
kill
right
in mid here.
afterwards, though, that's not going to be good. Has the ultimate again, but it does not matter. Pilot there with a lot of damage
Oh, it's
with
fine.
Bayoneri there. It's just a good combination, this Poseidon Thor like that. You can catch a long-range stun, which is all Poseidon really needs to get their damage off. And SnixJ, I was just talking about how they maybe were a beneficiary of that fight in right, but falling down like that, it doesn't look so good for them anymore.
It really doesn't. Not only
That was
do you
good.
lose
That was a really good drop.
your life and
Didn't hold the mic too
give
long.
over some
Just
XP
generally
and gold, but
existed.
You're losing time on the map, and all the time you're losing time on the map, that gives Bayoneri more of an opportunity to get ahead, more of an opportunity to push. And I think we've really seen Jungle Skogs make the most of any time they've been given just a little bit of breathing room, and that was something they never had in game 1, was breathing room. Game 2, they've been given a little bit more space, and it's become a real game, and they've still actually maintained a bit of a lead going
Again,
into the
why aren't we
game.
looking
Sure,
at Bologna
it's-
here
it's
getting
small,
aggressed
but
on?
they never really had this past the first
Like,
10
this camera
minutes of
game needs to be
game 1,
better.
and I'm really intrigued to see how this is going to play out now.
You say this is a real game, but the one question I have that maybe is preventing this from being real is, what are either of these teams actually trying to do right now?
Love that question.
Because it's just kind of a little bit of, I rotate.
I love
here
that
and we fight,
question.
and then we rotate over here and we fight. It doesn't seem to be a clear, explicit plan. There's a
Drop
bit
it
of
off there.
scrap going on the left-hand side. Mario Bro finally actually falling down again in this game. It seems like there's always pressure on the
Yeah, okay. So, like, Judas, again, you shoot yourself in the foot, right? You have such a good opportunity to drop it off.
It's just kind of a little bit of, I rotate here and we fight. And then we rotate over here and we fight.
Like, that should be it. And then Haunting can have a little
Doesn't
spiel.
seem to be a clear, explicit plan.
Right,
There's a bit of
haunting,
scrap
haunting,
going on the
haunting,
left-hand
haunting, and then haunting can go, oh, look, there was a death in the left-hand side, and then
side.
you can
Mario
pick it up,
Bro finally
you can pick it
actually
up
falling down.
here. When you see the Morrigan transform, you can go, actually, hold on a second, Haunting, maybe they're planning on doing something, right? And you kind of get that moment where you can come back into it. But again, you go on a little too long. You had a really good drop-off point there. I loved the question because it's absolutely valid. Neither of these teams seem to be doing anything. But then you overextend
Again,
the
in this
point. You
game,
don't give Haunting an actual chance to respond to what you're
It
asking
seems like
him.
there's always pressure on this Artemis, but maybe a little bit of pressure onto Baronary. Great pluck to keep them safe for a little bit, but
And at this point, so you didn't drop sooner. You need to stop to take a breath. I can hear it. I can fucking hear it. Where you're there like, oh god, I've been talking for too long. That was your opportunity.
maybe a little bit of pressure onto Baronary. Great pluck to keep them safe for.
Great pluck to keep them safe for now, right? You drop it to Haunting. Haunting then goes. It might not last for very
bit,
long
but
though.
that
Thanatos
is
is taking off into the
outrageous.
sky, and then you get to pick it back up from there, right? So you just get that moment to stop. Haunting says one line, and then you pick it
Out
back
now,
up.
the chase down still coming through, but there's a lot of health bar for Baronary to work with here. But that is a Morrigan D-transform. There's a Thanatos coming out, runs out of space for that Kraken. Baronary still alive.
Yeah, instead you're
Still
talking way too
battling
long.
back. Eternal Vanguard still alive and still battling back. Another pluck onto Koja Fox, who still wants to take this fight despite being 1v2. Actually, Tegvir on the Thanatos backing to base, so nothing doing there. Leo all the way on the left-hand side taking a tier 2 down. It's been a little bit of chaos Haunting, and that's sort of what I was alluding to. Who does all this scrapping benefit?
Do you mind if I talk about?
And do you mind if I talk? Haunting, perfectly valid question. So we finally get back onto the question, right? But like, we're talking way too long. I like that we brought it back around to the question at the end, but like,
Who does all this scrapping benefit?
Do you mind if I talk
it's just too good. It's just too perfect of a pickup.
about the chaos? Because I think
Go
who it
for it.
benefits is Jungle Skogs. You said what's the plan here, and I think what they've worked out, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit.
Don't ask Judas, right? Just tell him. Let's talk about the chaos, right? Let's talk about how chaotic this game has been. This 100% benefits Skogs, who have this scrappier team, who have these big engage ultimates, who want to kind of pick apart these fights. Whereas Vanguard, they want to group you up with that Hades ult. They want to line up 2 or 3 people so that Morrigan and Ra can, do their thing, right? That's just tell him. Don't ask.
Credit is wherever we exert pressure to fight, Eternal Vanguard match us, right? Eternal Vanguard.
Could have seen that coming a mile away. Don't blame me for not exactly like cutting off your analysis to talk about it, but like that's something that I hope that
love
you
to
touch
fight,
on.
and they want to fight. Oh, look at that steal.
It's late. I don't know if you're on a delay or if that's just late, but that was late.
They want to fight wherever we are on the map. And so what we saw was they start this scrap in mid lane with Poseidon and with Gigan. And then suddenly over in duo lane, we've got an Anvil of Dawn down onto Mario Bro and pressure that takes
Mario
both
Bro.
towers over in that duo lane. So now you've got
At what
a
point do
real
you just
exposed
start
spot
calling him
on
either
the
Bro
map
or Mario?
and more levels on your backline and on your jungle, and all that time Eternal Vanguard are just chasing you around trying to kill Baronary, which they never do.
Snakes has no ultimate.
This
Really good drop off from Haunting recognizes that it's time
This is
for him to
crazy
stop
to
talking.
immediately turn
Bro Rio, Mari bro.
this into a
How you doing,
free
Kino?
objective push here. The Vido's burning faster. This is going to really quick. The Jungle Scots need to get here, but the Eternal Vanguard do take it away. What's the cleanup like? They're in a bit of tough spot now. Are the rest of Eternal Vanguard retreating forwards? Is the doing retreating backwards? Is the rest of the team but caught by the Jungle Scots? Are Eternal Vanguard?
fine.
They lose 3 members, only getting away with 2 Fire Giants. Haunting, is that worth it?
Great drop.
I think it's
Great drop. You do a good fight. You do a good job. That's good.
really, really terrible
Thumbs up.
decision making there from Eternal Vanguard, or at least really great punish from Jungle Skogs. They weren't particularly low health after that Gold Fury. They'd already taken
this an
care
end?
of the whole left side of the map. It could well be an
Is
end.
it an
You
end?
haven't really got a huge amount of damage if Tegvir misses.
Hungry,
and it's all really
and same
single
time
target
stand up hard?
damage.
Oh,
This is
no.
great
How
look
come?
from Jungle Skogs. And even if they choose not to end, the map is so firmly in their favor that they get to really take advantage of what the next move is.
Just lazy. Oh, okay.
So I was gonna
You're not
follow
like
up
in
on you,
pain
like,
or something.
The way that they went for that Fire Giant immediately there, Eternal Vanguard. Yes, there was no response on the Pyromancer, but you have announced your position with that Pyromancer kill. And yes,
Yeah.
they took it fast, and yes, they did actually secure that Fire Giant, but it was just so risky. Like you said, you have nothing left in the tank, and actually might get an execute here on the Jigen. Is Tegvir, if they want to go
Yeah,
for it,
he's
will
decided no.
absolutely fall
That would be
if they
absolute
decide to go for
suicide.
that. So does think a little bit better of it. But yeah,
That's
Eternal
really
Vanguard,
bold
they
from
just pulled
Tegvir,
the
honestly.
trigger on that, and
I have
it
Fire
almost
Giant. Let me
accelerates
tower
this
dive
game a little
against
bit. We were
3.
getting into a little bit of a stalemate. I was going to touch on the fact that, like you said, there was a big push.
Yeah,
on
we're just
left,
talking too
2
long.
towers taken for
Like-
Jungle Skogs.
This stage of the game is where Judas should be doing more of the talking, but it should come more off the back of we let Judas's voice rest between fights. Right? So when there is this little lull between fights, there should be all Haunting talking about, okay, Vanguard, they picked it up, but they dropped 3 deaths. That's, how are Skogs defending against this? How are Vanguard pushing this advantage? What should they be doing with this Fire Giant? What should Skogs be doing in response? Like that kind of thing. Rather than Judas talking about whatever the fuck Judas is
accelerates
talking
this
about.
game a little bit. We were getting into a little bit of a stalemate. I was going to touch on the fact that, like,
Right, how even things are. Which, like, fine. It's a fine thing to talk about, but we should be hearing Haunting talking about this so that Judas can come into this next fight
you
with
said, there was
some
a big push
gusto.
on left. 2
Just a
towers
consistent
taken for
thing.
Jungle Skogs.
I know I've talked
But
about
then
the
goal
same
lead
criticism like
immediately
20 times
equalised
now,
by
but like,
Stitch with the steal
gotta
on the
drill it
goal,
in
and then
every
the
time you see it.
Pyromancer, It came back to that stalemate, but Eternal Vanguard hit the gas pedal. And,
Oh my
goodness,
God.
the response coming back in. I was expecting this to be a retreat, but it could just be a death knell for Eternal Vanguard.
I think you could have covered that better. You had such a great opening into this fight. Like, this
Steal on
is
the goal,
huge.
and then the
This is
Pyromancer,
a
it came-
non-Fire Giant team defending a tier 1 tower. They should not be doing this. Right? A tier 1 tower 24 minutes into the game is fucking nothing. But they choose to defend it. They got a good position. Like,
Back to that
you
stalemate,
start
but
so
Eternal
strong.
Vanguard hit the gas pedal, and oh my goodness, the response coming.
Like, that's beautiful texture in your voice. The growl and the goodness is so good. You peter off it. Like, you should have told me what happened.
Back in. I was expecting this to be a retreat, but it could.
Like, locked in and eaten up, Kraken gets 3! Like, so, something a bit bigger and a bit more descriptive of what's actually used. I think you could have just, like... Yeah. Really loved the first part of that, I think. You could have ended it a little stronger.
Now for Eternal Vanguard, lose 3 in the blink of an eye. I expect to do and might look to put up a fight here, but with only
And again, this should just be lose 3 in a blink of an eye, right? And then Haunting picks it up.
Tegvir to help.
And then
This
you
is
can have
looking
that small
very close
break
to the
before
end of the
this
game.
second part of the fight
A
comes through.
really, really great execution there from Jungle Skogs.
Yeah, like, Haunting comes into this great. Cut it off 1 sentence sooner.
Perfect timing on the Kraken after the Eagles rally, which turns around that siege into
They're looking to end
now
the game.
a push for Jungle
It should
Skogs.
be the
It's
end of
gonna
the
be a
game.
tough defense, especially I think they've got the timing down perfectly as well. With
Saying,
Hayes only
"Roar,"
just backing.
normally does it.
I really, really love the way they've played this.
Roar,
game.
roar!
Maybe we have to talk about it later if this fight carries on and we get a kill here. But there's been some really interesting decision making.
Okay, what the fuck? Okay, Haunting, my guy, you gave yourself an out from kind of an already bad position here. Like, Skogs are running it down. There are 2 people alive against 5 members of the Order side. They are nearly full build. This Titan is dead to rights, right? There is almost 0 chance that EV are able to clean up here, especially with Hades ult on cooldown. There is no world where you should be talking. This is all Judas. This is
Perfect timing.
You're
on the
here?
Kraken after the Eagles rally, which turns around that siege into now a push for Jungle Skogs. It's gonna
like, this should be an Eagles rally that now opens the door wide for Skogs to go through and try and end the game. And then
around
Judas
that
comes
siege
in here and
into
starts like
now
calling the end fight.
a push
Like,
for
Skogs,
Jungle
they're
Skogs. It's
pushing
gonna be
in.
a tough
Only
defense,
2
especially
members
I think they've
of
got the
Vanguard are able to
timing
defend
down
here. They
perfectly
both
as
have the
well,
Fire Giant,
with
but the
Hades
Titan
just
is already
backing.
taking damage,
I
and
really
Vanguard
love
are
the way
finding it
they
difficult to
played
find
this
an
game.
entry into this
I
fight.
think
Already Jiggin
we
falls
have
low.
to
He's
talk about
forced
it
to dash
later
away
if
up
this
into the
fight
sky.
carries
Comes
on until
Thanatos,
we get a
but the
kill here.
Titan is already falling too low. Taviga is able to claim 1 life, but it's not going to matter. Down falls the Titan, and Skogs even the score 1-1. Right, like, that should always be Judas there in that moment. Like, that should never be. Instead, like,
Siege
this just
into
feels so
now
awkward and wet
a
and
push for Jungle Skogs. It's going to be a tough
flat-
defense, especially I think
flat.
they've got the timing down perfectly as well.
like, this is a big deal, right? Skogs got their asses kicked in game 1, I think, and now they're coming back through and they win this game pretty
With the
convincingly.
Hades only just backing. I really, really love the way they've played this game. I think maybe we have to talk about it later if this fight carries on.
And like, you give yourself a moment here where you're there like, okay, I realize that I've held the mic too long and now I'm passing off to Judas. In a moment where Judas could still build a decent amount of hype before the game ends, but then
And we get a kill here. But there's been some really interesting decision making from Jungle Skogs that I'd like to go into.
Oh, it's so close, but it.
like, your point does not matter. I don't care that you have interesting things to talk about Jungle Skogs. You can talk about it in the post game. Right, like, that should have. And Judas, again, if he's not gonna pass you the mic, fucking take it from him. Slap it out of his hands, and fucking take it, right? Because that did not feel like an end. That felt so wet, so tepid. It didn't feel exciting at all. After this play, right? This is such a cool fucking end to a game, right?
Yes, they took.
Like,
the
this
attackers
should
wanna go for
be
the win. Yeah, Eternal, this game was
so
left.
much more hype.
Hit
Like,
the steal on the
this
goal,
is
and
an
then the-
awesome moment, and then they run it
Coming
down.
back in. I was expecting this to be a retreat,
Like, that's
but it could
and then
just
it
be
kind
a
of it goes from
down
this
for Eternal Vanguard.
After he has played this, get a
Oh, it's so close, but it
To
does
this.
go the way
This is
of
the end
Jungle
call.
Skogs. It-
right. That needed to be better. That just needed to be better. And Haunting, you were so close to kind of saving it. And then you you fumbled it. It comes with experience, but like those end calls, man, especially in that moment, that is all Judas. You never ever take an end call away from your chair one. Ever. That is like cardinal sin. And Judas, if he's not gonna give you the mic, you gotta just take it. All right, let's do the post game
was
analysis, and then
almost there
we'll call
for
it there.
Eternal Vanguard there. They almost managed to save that one, but no, great decision making for Jungle Skogs, and sufficiently poor decision making.
And again, this should be the other way around. Judas should have just had a big explosive ending, and then Haunting, you're the one to come in and tell me why they just won, right? Instead, Judas has got to kind of be there like, oh, they won, you know, all this happened. This should be, Judas has just come off the back of going, it's too little, too late, and Skogs even the score. And then Haunting goes, what a performance from Skogs. Finally, they were given some space to operate, and they turned into consummate professional, whatever, chair two shit, right?
Yeah, I think Eternal
Good drop
Vanguard
from
maybe
Judas.
got a
You
little
dropped
bit
it to
too
Haunting
comfortable
as soon as you could.
after
Yeah,
game
that was
one,
really good.
Seeing how well they were able to skirmish and how well they were able to control the jungle.
I think our energy came down too low. I mean, there was no energy from the end call anyway, so I guess that's not particularly
It's
fair.
easy to fall into a comfort trap. I think what Jungle Skogs did, which made the biggest difference in this game, is they seem to twig onto the fact that Eternal Vanguard love being together, right? If they're gonna play somewhere, they're gonna play all 5 members together, which means you have the power to split up the map. So as long as you know where Tegvir and SnixJ are, you basically know where the entire team is, and if you can just keep them busy, you get to threaten Elsa on the map, and we saw them do that time and time again.
Haunting
so
does
that
have
they
great
the
hair.
right lanes open, so that
Haunting
when
has the
moment
best
presents
hair
itself,
in
they
the
won't
new
go for
caster
the
squad,
jugular,
for
and I
sure.
think it worked out perfectly for them.
Yeah, that was, like you said, right moments and just right reaction to those moments.
Find
Almost
something to talk about.
complete opposite side
Find
to
something to
what
talk
was
about.
game number 1, right? Where it was Eternal Vanguard waiting for their moment, which happened to be in the first 10 minutes of the game, but they took that and ran with it. Whereas in this game, much more close for the entirety of the game. We were not more than 2k gold apart for a very long time there.
Okay, that's
so
fine.
very
Story
surprised
building,
to see
like it.
it spin so quickly out of control, but that's just what can happen if you make a mistake like Eternal Vanguard did at that mid tier 1 tower, by the way. It can fall apart so
See,
quickly
that's
for you, but
why are you highlighting it now? You should have told me at the time. Why are they defending the tier 1 tower?
means Haunting, we are heading to a game number 3, and we will have to find out who comes out on top. We're gonna head for a quick break to get everything set up, but don't go anywhere. It's the rubber match coming up.
It's the what?
Break to get everything set up, but don't go anywhere. It's the rubber match coming.
The rubber
Comes
match?
out on top. We're gonna head for a quick break to get everything set up, but don't go anywhere. It's the rubber match coming up.
The rubber match? Okay. Well, that's my analysis. Overall, gang, like, you should feel very proud of the cast as a whole. Are you fucking serious? Wait. No. Bro, I've been trying to download Path of Radiance all day. Ugh. It was so close. Okay. I hope that was helpful. I hope I didn't go too hard on anyone. I understand that I can get a little blunt when I'm doing analysis, but please know it comes from a place of love. I want you guys to improve because there is a lot of talent in there. I think it's just if I could break it down into 2 key points, it's Judas, stop talking so much when it should be, more analytic based. Haunting, stop talking so much when it should be more action based. Both of you need to look at the map more, and Cat, make sure that you're kind of focusing on where these fights are when they're happening. That's going to be it from me, though, folks. A bit of a short one, all things considered. Yeah, I'm going to go watch Scott Pilgrim with my awesome fucking partner. So, yeah. I will catch you all on Thursday for, well, what I had originally planned to be an editing stream, but I have been called in to do a cast on Thursday, so I'll be maybe streaming my POV for that cast, or who knows, a little behind-the-scenes thing, maybe, we'll see. Until then, folks, much love. Thank you very much for sitting with me through this VOD review. I'm going to raid you over to Judas, who is currently doing my VOD review for the VOD that I casted. So go and give him your love. I will catch you guys over there. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, folks. Good night. Good luck. Take all the advice that I've given you tonight and cast it into your soul. I pressed the wrong button on my thing. Oh, shit. Fuck. There we go.